becoming strong to gale force winds in the afternoon, both in East London and in Gqeberha. Durban will be fine, becoming cloudy from the late afternoon with isolated late evening showers and rain with a high of 30 in Durban. In Richards Bay, you can expect fine weather, becoming partly cloudy from the late afternoon with a high of 35. Pietermaritzburg will be fine, becoming cloudy towards the evening with a high of 34. And that's your weather.
The Daily News Diary on SAfm.
It is the Daily News Diary. Ava Chipa's with us. It was a busy day in the courts yesterday. A lot of coverage over there. You guys kept us on top of it all from the news desk, Ava. But what's on the diary today?
So just to quickly recap from yesterday's court proceedings, Mkhwebane's gratuity case has been reserved, and yesterday, you remember, there was the bail hearing of the two South African men accused of dealing in drugs, the 2 billion rand laboratory. Their bail application has been postponed to the 3rd of September, so we're still going to have to wait on updates for that. Today, back to the courts, 10 MK MPs who were fired from Parliament by the MK Party are seeking an urgent interdict from the Western Cape High Court to prevent the swearing in of the new MK MPs, which are likely to include Floyd Chivambu and Jimmy Manyi. So we're going to see as the day progresses how that goes. In other news, which I find heartbreaking, it will soon be marking 3 years since Babita Deokaran was assassinated. So the 6 men accused of killing the Gauteng Department Health Acting Chief Financial Officer were sentenced in August last year following a plea with the NPA. So if I remember correctly, the plea explanation, they detailed how they scouted and traced the movements of Babita on 2 separate occasions before they decided to kill her. She passed away on the 23rd of August in 2021. And in other news, 3 people have been injured after an explosion at the Petersburg hospital last night. So apparently they were removing an MRI scan machine. The 2 injured are 2 hospital employees and a technician from a private company. So the cause of the explosion is still unknown at this stage. And last but not least, members of the Judiciary will today hold a special sitting in the Constitutional Court in honor of the outgoing Chief Justice Raymond Zondo. He celebrates 27 years in the Judiciary and he is retiring at the end of this month.
Yeah, his dinner was last night. I saw some great images from there. It was really, really, really amazing. I listened to part of the speech by Chief Justice, the now incoming Chief Justice Maya, and what was interesting to me is that Mukhweng was there. He was one of, he spoke in a capacity not as the former Chief Justice, but rather as a friend of Raymond Zondo. That I found very, very endearing. Just take us back to that hospital story. Why were they trying to remove the MRI scan machine?
At this point, we don't actually have information as to why they were trying to remove it. So we'll just have updates as the day progresses.
So it was nurses and a technician?
It was nurses and a technician, and they were hired to remove it. So we're not sure if it was for repairs, to move it to another part of the building, but it just exploded as they were doing it.
That's very negligent. I don't know if you've seen the size of an MRI machine.
Yes.
And of course, it's a dangerous machine. It's all magnetic.
And I think only for 3 people to be working on that, that's also negligent.
Yeah. We should keep an eye on that and get some more details around that. Also, those machines are really expensive. Ava Chipa, thank you so much for that. Really appreciate it. 18 minutes after 6.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
18 teams are back on the hunting ground. No one wants a loss or a draw. They are all searching for maximum points in every encounter. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Do not miss out on the 2024-2025 Bundesliga season. Catch the action live on Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAfm is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAfm and SMS the keyword SAfm88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day, where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international or global news.
In Chicago this morning, more than 50,000 Democrats are meeting at the Democratic National Convention. This is where Kamala Harris will be outlining, because she's running uncontested as the Democratic candidate, she'll be outlining her plans. And this is where they are coalescing and galvanizing support. There's an impressive list of speakers that will be speaking, have spoken. The Clintons came out, the Obamas came out, and threw all of their support behind Kamala Harris. But before we speak to Brooke Spector, I want us to listen to just a snippet of Barack Obama's speech this morning, which I think, despite some of his political blind spots that I have with him, I think this may be one of his single best speeches.
Between us and them, between the real Americans, who of course support him, and the outsiders who don't. And he wants you to think that you'll be richer and safer if you will just give him the power to put those other people back in their place. It is one of the oldest tricks in politics from a guy whose act has, let's face it, gotten pretty stale. We do not need 4 more years of bluster and bumbling and chaos. We have seen that movie before, and we all know that the sequel is usually worse. America's ready for a new chapter. America's ready for a better story. We are ready for a President Kamala Harris. And Kamala Harris is ready for the job. This is a person who has spent her life fighting on behalf of people who need a voice and a champion. As you heard from Michelle, Kamala was not born into privilege. She had to work for what she's got. And she actually cares about what other people are going through. She's not the neighbor running the leaf blower. She's the neighbor rushing over to help when you need a hand.
And that's Barack Obama outlining Kamala Harris's. He goes on, by the way, and speaks extensively about her history, her track record, and then later on in the speech outlines a great deal of the policy positions that Kamala will hope to advance. Brooks, I don't know if you watched the entire speech this morning, both Michelle and Barack's speeches, but man, oh man, that was the best single case I think the Democrats have made for Kamala. I don't think they've made a case for her up until now. Is there a clear sense of what Democratic voters will be going out to be voting for?
All that, I mean, the demands of sleep finally got to me for some of the time. But I woke up early and been listening to excerpts of it, for the last hour or so, and it is quite clear that the Obama team, husband and wife, blew the roof off of the convention, and the question will be: can they take that energy, bottle it, hand that bottle over to Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, and convey it successfully to voters who are now, it seems, making up their minds about whether or not they wish to go with that team or do they wish to return to the Donald Trump sequel. And that's going to be the question now, isn't it? That's the one that voters have to decide. up until a few weeks ago, we sort of understood what the storyline was going to be. Two old men fighting it out one more time, and now suddenly it's a very different ballgame.
Let's talk about some of those policy positions that were outlined. For instance, the introduction of tax cuts for single-headed parent households is a thing that you will want to champion. Bringing Medicare and Medicaid back onto the table, which in previous administrations was called Obamacare, which is a universal access to healthcare. Very specifically, debt relief for students who are drowned and swallowed by heaps of student debt. Those are some of the policy ideas that they want to advance. It sounds a lot like Obama in 2012 when he ran for a second time. Will those policy positions once again resonate with the average American?
Well, I mean, for most people, issues of the kitchen table, aid to first-time home buyers, aid to students who have debt that continues to spiral up despite the fact that they keep paying it off, aid to tax relief to families with as they have children, expansion of medical protection. Those are the kinds of things that presumably will resonate with the average person, because those are all, there's no question about it, those are all kitchen table issues. There's going to be fighting at the margins. Should this policy make sense? Should that policy make better sense? One of the issues that Kamala Harris has brought forward, which is the term price gouging, when companies, mostly companies that deal in the selling of groceries and home consumption products, if they are extracting greater than reasonable profits, that the feds will come after them. That's an issue that resonates, but for a lot of people that begins to sound a little bit too much like price controls. And price controls traditionally and consistently end up meaning black markets and shortages and all the rest of the ills that economists will explain. And so this is what I mean by debate along the margins of the proposals.
And just lastly, in a minute if you can, yesterday was the first time in the history of the DNC where they had a panel discussion at the DNC on Palestine, and there was a young doctor, Dr. Tanya Haj Hassan, who addressed the DNC plenary on it, and she moved everyone to tears. She was a doctor that volunteered in Gaza, helping children. Very specifically, she's a pediatrician. But and that seems to be the elephant in the room at the DNC. Barack Obama didn't address that head on. All he said, parenthetically, skirting around it, was, the world is watching. This is why when we uphold our values, the world is a little brighter. Does that signal at all a change in tonality in the approach to brokering wars around the world, specifically the elephant in the room being the Israeli onslaught of Palestine?
Well, I'm going to answer you with one word, perhaps.
That's where we're going to have to leave it for now. Brooks, thank you so much for that. Really do appreciate it. I do think, and I think this American election might be the single most pivotal one, because what it will signal to us is whether or not there is any indication whether America takes itself serious as a global player in multilateralism. And the elephant in the room is the question around Israel-Palestine. Very specifically, we need to hear from Kamala Harris, who's yet to address the DNC, by the way. I think she's going to be addressing them tomorrow. Or might be closing the DNC, and we'll bring you some snippets of that address. We have to hear from Kamala Harris about what her position around Israel-Palestine is. That panel discussion was incredibly important on Palestine. In fact, we have about 30 seconds. I just want to play you the end of Obama's outlining of Kamala Harris's policy position, reflecting on her track record as a prosecutor many years ago. Have a listen at this.
Kamala stood up for children who had been victims of sexual abuse. As an attorney general of the most populous state in the country, she fought big banks and for-profit colleges securing billions of dollars for the people they had scammed. After the home mortgage crisis, she pushed me and my administration hard to make sure homeowners got a fair settlement. Didn't matter that I was a Democrat. Didn't matter that she had knocked on doors for my campaign in Iowa. She was going to fight to get as much relief as possible for the families who deserved it. As vice president, she helped take on the drug companies to cap the cost of insulin, lower the cost of health care, give families with kids a tax cut. And she is running for president with real plans to lower costs even more and protect Medicare and Medicaid and sign a law to guarantee every woman's right to make her own health care decisions.
And that is Barack Obama. Taking your reaction to that, give us a call 086 000 2032. Send us your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107. Tweet me at Oliver_speaking. It's 6:30. Let's take your latest headlines.
In your news making headlines for this hour, 10 of the 18 dismissed MK Party members of Parliament have approached the High Court in the Western Cape to seek reinstatement. The matter will be heard today. In other news, the Special Investigating Unit says it will investigate if the OR Tambo municipality in the Eastern Cape has incurred wasteful expenditure in its procurement of 5 water supply structures. This after President Cyril Ramaphosa authorized the SIU to investigate possible irregular contracts in the procurement. And lastly, the former US President Barack Obama says now that President Joe Biden has passed the torch to Kamala Harris, it's up to Democrats to fight for an America they believe in and elect her as the next president. I'll be back at 7 with more news. For SAfm News, I'm Eva Chipa.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Some unusual delays coming along the R59 this morning. If you're in from the Vaal area, just approaching the N12 Reading interchange, there's quite a backlog there. I'm not sure whether the problem's in the tunnel or on the R59 main carriageway itself, but from Michelle Avenue it all gets pretty heavily backed up, and it does look like the squeeze is sort of getting through that tunnel onto the N12 to get up towards Elan to the N3. Pretty heavy on the Mike 1 already from Gold Reef City through to the Braamfontein area. It's quite easily the heaviest highway normally this time of morning, and it is again no exceptions today. Let's got a first look at a video of this truck crash at Bergville. We've put it up on x.com at Traffic SA. You can have a look at it and see why there's quite a big backlog. There's 2 trucks that have collided. At least one of those trucks has lost a massive load over both lanes. So it's just the left-hand emergency lane open, filtering through a big volume of truck and vehicular traffic. So there are some queues. If you don't fancy that, maybe travel through a little bit later, but recovery might be a while. There's a big load to pick up there. And Cape Town, wet weather conditions, everything on a go slow. You can see that on the N1, which is under pressure already from Brackenfell all the way through to Kubo. Get a change. The N2 queuing up in big volumes through Khayelitsha towards the R300, and it just gets busy again across all lanes from the airport through to Hospital Bend. A busy one through the rain in Cape Town this morning. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
This is SAfm Sport with Sai Khan.
A very good morning to you. We start with rugby. The Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus has bolstered the squad for their rugby championship showdown with New Zealand. Returning to the team are World Cup winners Jaden Henrikse, Steven Kitchoff and Jasper Visser, who are back from injury and suspension. Erasmus emphasized their experience and skill, which will be key as the Boks face their arch rivals. Now the team remains unbeaten after 2 victories against Australia. In the meantime, South Africa finished the Under-18 International Series undefeated when they convincingly beat England at the Paarl Boys High School yesterday. The 39-14 victory added to their impressive win against Ireland, and that was on Friday at the Paarl Gymnasium. And last week, the SA Under-18 A-team beat Georgia at Stellenberg High School, meaning the South Africans were unbeaten during the 3-match series. Soccer now, Bafana coach Hugo Bruges has named his squad for the upcoming AFCON qualifiers, once again leaving out MLS stars Njabulu Blom and Bongo Kushla Shlongwane. Despite their impressive performances in the United States, with Hlongwane becoming Minnesota United's second highest goal scorer, the duo has not convinced Bruges to earn a call-up. Now Vitesse forward Simon van Duvenboden makes his debut in the squad as Bafana prepare for crucial matches against Uganda and South Sudan. Now Bruges' team is currently on an 8-match unbeaten run. Cycling, Primož Roglič proved he has fully recovered from his Tour de France, and that was the crash with the Stage 4, and he had victory yesterday at the Volta a España. The 3-time Vuelta winner triumphed atop the daunting closing climb to Pico Vallecas to take his claim for a record-equaling fourth success in one of cycling's 3 Grand Tours. The Slovenia veteran, aptly supported by his Red Bull Hansgrohe teammates, reeled in a 2-man breakaway up the grueling 14.6 kilometer long ascent with a gradient of 16% over the final 5 kilometers. And finally, tennis. The tennis world number 1, Jannik Sinner, has been cleared of any wrongdoing for 2 anti-doping violations earlier in the season. Sinner provided an in-competition sample at the Indian Wells Masters on the 10th of March 2024, which contained the presence of a metabolite of clostrobol at low levels, and this is according to the ITIA. A further sample conducted 8 days later out of competition also tested positive for low levels of the same metabolite. And that's where we'll leave it for now. We'll keep a close eye on these and other sports stories. Headlines, top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAfm.
24 minutes to the top of the hour. Ntaoleng is with us this morning once again for the business update. Ntaoleng, good morning. We start out in China today.
Morning, Oliver. Now, China has left its interest rates unchanged. This is coming as a surprise move, as the People's Bank of China was expected to increase rates to boost the economy. So it's left the 1-year loan prime rate at 3.35% and the 5-year loan prime rate at 3.8%. Now, the Chinese economy has been struggling since the initial hit, or the impact rather, of those COVID-19 lockdowns that they had. So once those restrictions were eased, everyone expected China to recover fast, but that hasn't been the case. It's been dealing with a property market slump that was sparked by Evergrande's default and slowing consumer spending. This has been shown in recent company results, with e-commerce players like Alibaba and JD.com missing sales expectations on the back of that struggling consumer. Now, in an attempt to boost spending and the economy, China has been unleashing big stimulus packages, which included, lowering rates, but we've been seeing a drawback since late last year. This despite growth still coming in below expectation. So there's been speculation among market experts that the People's Bank of China may implement another round of policy easing by the end of the year, but policymakers will be eyeing rather those economic indicators like inflation and retail sales before making another big move.
Yeah, but some good news for China, right? That might stimulate that economic growth, and that's that the EU had cut tariffs on cars made by Tesla in China.
So not necessarily good news for China overall, because those big tariffs that the EU slapped earlier in July still apply to other Chinese car makers. It's just that Tesla got exempted, right?
Yeah.
So will give Tesla an advantage against its Chinese competitors. The EU reducing tariffs from 20.8% to 9%. The new rate applies on top of the existing EU duty of 10% on all electric vehicle imports, but it is still well below the additional tariffs of between 17 and 36.3% levied on other Chinese automakers. Now, this decision comes after the European increased tax on electric cars imported from China, claiming that China's government subsidies gave Chinese manufacturers an unfair advantage over European companies. Now, Tesla being thrown in there as it owns big manufacturing plants in China, and most of the cars sent to Europe from Tesla are made in China. Now, there's been a lot of pushback post the implementation of those tariffs, with the Chinese government saying it's unhappy with the EU's decision and that they think the investigation that led to the tariffs was unfair. Some analysts also seem to share the same sentiments, with some even surprised that Tesla got some sort of reprieve. Rhodium Group's analyst Gregor Sebastian said he was surprised by Tesla's move, adding that the US EV maker also benefits from subsidies in China.
Yeah. How are those indicators looking? Is the Rand rally still rallying on?
Unfortunately, it isn't. So markets are generally just taking a breather as that global rally stalls. US stocks are closing lower, with the Nasdaq and S&P 500 snapping an 8-day winning streak. Traders globally somewhat nervous ahead of the Fed minutes. Those minutes will give us clues on where policymakers' heads were at in the July meeting. It will also give us clues on the outlook for monetary policy. That portion also just filtering through to Asian markets, with stocks mostly in the red. Traders are booking some profits after the recent upward trend in the markets. They also seemed reluctant to make significant moves, of course, ahead of big events that could impact the outlook for interest rates. Back at home, the JSE taking a breather, coming down from record highs we saw last Friday and on Monday. The JSE dipped 0.02% in yesterday's trade. The downbeat sentiment also filtering through to the Rand. It fell from highs of 17.74 to 17.88 to the dollar this morning.
And darling, thank you so much. Catching up with you in the next hour. Give us a call, 086 000 2032.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
And you can send us your WhatsApp voice notes on 0614 104 107. Before we go to the lines, let's have a listen at this WhatsApp voice note.
Good morning, Bro Oliver. It's Fred the Trucker here in Western Cape. Bro Oliver, as a trucker, I can tell you, since 2022, there have been these guys roaming around Umtata, robbing truck drivers. We have been complaining. When you get to Umtata, you don't go in. You have to go to the Shell garage, wait there until this security company comes and pick you up so that you can deliver. It has been happening since 2021, Abut Oliver. And until now that these criminals are tired of robbing truck drivers, now they are robbing the residents of Umtata.
Yeah, please do share your stories if you have more stories to tell. Help us shed light on extortionism taking place across the country, not just in the Eastern Cape. We're going to be talking about that a little bit later on in the hour to 7:20. The Deputy Minister of Defence, Bantoli Misa, will be joining us. Ninja in KZN, good morning. Go for it.
Good morning. Yeah, Oliver, you should get the Minister of the Judiciary onto your program. Now, the point is this. The top brass gets away with murder. Those committing petty crime face the full might of the law. Imagine somebody stealing a loaf of bread. You send this person to prison, and the person needs to raise 1,000 rand bail. Now, where's the justice? Where's the justice in this? Those committing petty crime should be tagged and do community service X number of hours. Say bread costs 20 rands, right? Should do twice the amount of community service, like clearing all the rubbish from the road or cleaning in hospitals, to ease the burden on prisons. Now you're sending these petty criminals and aligning them with hardened criminals in prison. It doesn't make sense. They got the cart before the horse, and all
so
these.
Can I pause you just to get a sense? Are you saying that it should be more difficult to get bail?
No, it shouldn't be difficult.
Okay.
There should be a special call assigned where you have advocates or lawyers dealing with this case and pass a judgment. You don't have to go through the whole rigmarole of the law. These are petty crimes, and you don't need to waste state money, state time on lengthy processes.
Yeah.
This is why things are not working out in the country because the politicians have got it all wrong, all wrong.
Okay,
And
Ninja. Yeah, we're going to have to leave it there.
yes.
Thank you so much for your call. Appreciate it. Ninja calling us there from KZN. I'm going to continue taking your reactions. Shares with us some of these stories that you have experienced or know of, shedding light on extortionism in South Africa. It's a really, really important conversation that I think we need to take serious as a country collectively, because one, with no order of law, with no order of criminality being able to take a head on, society begins to fall apart entirely. And I do think that something needs to be done about that.
SAfm has signed a code of conduct that is enforced by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Under the code, we are committed to giving news that is accurate, comment that is fair, and programming that is not harmful, does not amount to hate speech, or contain violence or explicit sex. If you think we are not living up to that code, then you can inform the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. Direct any complaints in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission of South Africa. PO Box 142365. Craig Hall 2024. Fax to 011-326-3198 or an email to bccsa@nabsa.co.za. For more information, please visit www.bccsa.co.za. SAfm 104 to 107 nationwide.
15 minutes before 7 o'clock, you're listening to SAfm Breakfast. My name is Oliver. Thank you so much for being with us. The ANC in the Eastern Cape, they released a statement condemning the ongoing extortionism in the province, specifically reacting to what has been happening in Mthatha. We're going to be speaking to Gift Ngondi, who is the spokesperson of the ANC in the Eastern Cape. Gift, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Really do appreciate it. The ANC has been the government of the Eastern Cape since 1994. What level of responsibility and solutions does the ANC take and provide for when it comes to taking responsibility for extortionism as a rampant crime in the province?
Good morning, Oliver. Good morning to listeners in the 8 hours of this morning. Look, Oliver, this trend is something new in the province, I can tell you, in confidence that it's something new, because this thing has been prevalent in the Western Cape. And immediately when we receive the reports that this particular trend, we consulted the police and security organs of the state and the province that this must be dealt with. And we know for a fact that some...
When you say it's a new phenomenon, Gift, how new would you say it is?
Look, we have been getting reports for the past few months, even during before the elections campaign, that this thing has been rampant in the area from Mthatha, in the area of Aituchwa, also in the area of Willowvale. And we activated the police to say there must be an investigation on this, and they must work in collaboration with community policing forums and communities in around those towns, including Mthatha.
Yep.
And we know for a fact that some people have been arrested.
Can I just pause you there? I just want you to listen to this, because I do think it's important that you recognize that this is actually not new. This is what one of our listeners just said to us.
Okay.
This is a voice note that we received earlier on from Freddie, the truck driver on the road.
Good morning, Bro Oliver. It's Fred the trucker here in Western Cape. Bro Oliver, as a trucker, I can tell you, since 2022, there have been these guys roaming around Mthatha, robbing truck drivers. We have been complaining. When you get to Mthatha, you don't go in. You have to go to the Shell garage, wait there until this security company comes and pick you up.
Since 2014, 2015, he says over there. So it's not new.
Look, Oliver, that's why we continue calling to our people that when they get robbed or demanded these kinds of money, they must report to authorities. And I think some of these people who are claiming to be truck drivers, including this particular voice note, maybe he never reported this to authorities, because I'm sure they should have been action. And that's why we even activated law enforcement agencies when we hear about this, even before the elections. Hence, some of the people have been arrested. But our view as the province is that this is not enough, because we have the view that
crime intelligence units in the province must be beefed up. And this has been a call that we have been making. You will go to records and we'll hear our statements on the issue of crime intelligence in the province, that it's one of the things that we have been complaining about, and we are glad and happy that this time around in the National Commissioner and the Minister of Police have heard our cries that they'll be beefing up of all these agencies, in particular crime intelligence. Because for Oliver, you will never win the battle of crime if you are not working in collaboration with communities. And also victims of crime report this crime so that investigation can be activated by the agencies or law enforcement agencies. That's our view. But also we are saying again that government departments, in particular your municipality, whether it's local or district, including working with Department of Justice, I mean, there must be campaign on this racketeering, because this thing is not only confined in Amtata, it's not only confined in the areas of Willowville or Ituja, it's people are saying it's around the country.
Yeah,
so we're not
let me pause you.
That has been affected.
Yeah. Let me pause you there. I want to bring into the conversation community activist Pumla Mchaya. Pumla, good morning. Thank you so much. Do you want to respond to that?
Good morning, sir. Good morning, South Africa. It is true. It is a very broad situation. Not only Umtata, it has escalated truly to other parts of South Africa. This shows that the foundation, the lawlessness on the ground, because my understanding of analyzing it, looking at the situation in Umtata, these are not real mafias. These are, as I call them, blue-collar criminals that are seeing the gap of what has been happening before them. Yesterday, the king of Abatembu went to address the community where he was being challenged, because this young man who calls himself a leader is undermining the authorities, is undermining the kingdom. Yesterday, he retaliated. He made voice notes threatening communities that they had the king when he was addressing them, that people were cheering to the king's speech. He is calling them within 14 days. Each household must give him 100 rand so that he can be able to use it towards his legal fees when he is going to challenge the king in court.
Yeah, we're going to have to leave it there with Dr. Pumla. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. Just finally, perhaps, Gift, to ask this. What is the ANC in the province proposing very specifically to the uniquities of extortionism in the Eastern Cape? Yeah, sure, it's a countrywide problem, but it seems to manifest differently in different parts of the country. It's different from how it happens in KZN, it's different from how it happens in the Western Cape, it's different from how it happens in Gauteng. What is the proposal on the table from the ANC?
Look, we have made many proposals. One of those proposals that we are calling for the establishment of the specialized courts and designated judges to deal with such cases, and we need a strict whistleblower protection mechanism, Oliver, to ensure people can come forward without any fear. And also all levels of government must launch this anti-extortion campaign to encourage more people to report these incidents, so as to assist the police and law enforcement agents, so to better identify protection racketeers. And I want to confirm this, Oliver. Success will require a multifaceted approach that will involve many stakeholders, Oliver, including the Hawks, the crime intelligence, organized crime investigators, including the detectives and the foreign services of SAPS, including the NPA.
Okay, Gift, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. Gift Ngondi, who is the Eastern Cape spokesperson for the ANC there. Let's take your latest traffic.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Stays very heavy on the run into the Reading interchange this morning up the R59. So if you drive in from the Vaal, you'll hit the wall of traffic from Michelle Avenue territory. It goes right through Reading and into that tunnel linked to the N12E. So really big traffic. You might want to avoid that one. Also breakdown at Galulis on the N12. So that's very slow coming through from the R24 merge. The N1 South is already loaded up between Brakfontein and New Road this morning. And if you're into Pretoria using the Mopori Highway, that delay is a lot worse than normal. You've got traffic backlogging through the bend then back onto Theo Martins. A reminder about the big truck crash at Bergville on your way up towards Van Rynens. Both lanes are closed, 2 trucks colliding. Big heavy load has been dropped on the highway, so recovery this could take some time. Just the left lane sort of emergency and part of the sort of dirt track there is what's being used to get all the truck and vehicular traffic through that scene. So there is certainly some queuing pressure there. Cape Town, a wet morning, heavy rains earlier. Rain forecast to be around the city and the sort of greater Cape Town there until about sort of late morning. So just take it easy. Roads are really busy, just with high volumes going slow in the conditions. And the M7 coming out of Mitchell's Plain also has a crash up before Govan and Becky Bridge. Quite heavy backlogs coming out of Mitchell's Plain on that Samora Michelle side. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
Stay on top of all meaningful, top trending stories right here on SAfm. Leading the conversation.
Now, criminal mafias don't just extort from households and small businesses in communities. They can impact business throughout the country. In fact, if it's left unattended, it could bring the economy to its knees. And Roelof Viljoen, who's the project manager of Business Against Crime South Africa, joins us to unpack this. Roelof, you're making the argument, and I'm paraphrasing here, that this needs to be seen as a treasonous act against businesses in South Africa, sabotaging the economy. What's to be done?
Good morning, and thank you for having us. What's to be done is like any other crime, identification and follow through with the legal process. But I must say, if it affects business, it affects everyone. So it's not an act against business alone. It's affecting everyone because business is pushing this country.
Yeah. So the thing about very specific extortionist crime, it seems to take on the shape of syndicated organized crime. In that oftentimes, if you look at the construction industry, for instance, they come in the guise of a business forum, oftentimes pretending to want to sincerely engage on local inclusion and that sort of stuff. And in many instances, there are legitimate concerns, but the intentions seem to be criminal. Should business change the way it interacts with communities so that communities can see the need to protect businesses as well?
Definitely, in terms of involvement of the community, business is functioning in a community. So you need to talk to the local people. And I mean, it is beneficial to employ locals and develop, because that's the core. I mean, if you develop people locally, they start buying from you because they've got the means. But it comes back to the preferential procurement policy that was put in place and specifically targeted construction for public infrastructure. The intention was to grow industry, grow smaller business, enable them to provide and grow and become part of the economy. So the intention was good, but as quite a lot of intentions sometimes gets turned around by the criminals. And yeah, it's all about the community being aware of what their role can be and identifying. And the principle is that you cannot ever, if you in fear negotiating a price, then that price won't be fair.
Yeah, and just lastly, how can businesses organize around this to get the attention of the state, but also the assistance of communities?
Well, to be honest, the attention of the state is already there. 2019, extortion at construction sites was identified as a priority crime. So structures are put in place, and it's all about getting those structures functional and making sure that everyone in that value chain knows what their role is and sticking to it.
Yeah, and just lastly, very importantly, when you say the structures are there, when you say that government has already identified it, why then has there been a failure to act more enthusiastically against it?
Well, it goes through every one of the steps. Let's say there was an extortion at the construction site. The victim tries to report it, but the local station don't understand the crime type and don't lodge it correctly, or have some indication that that's just a labor dispute. So it is about the definition of a crime, being aware. So it comes back to education of basically all the role players that's involved to understand what is it, that it is a crime, and then follow through, as I said earlier.
Yeah, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Really do appreciate it. That is Rulof Fulyun. I'm taking your reactions to that. Give us a call, 086 000 2032, 086 000 2032. If you're a business owner and you've experienced this type of extortionism from criminals, please give us a call. Share with us your experience. And if you're able to resolve it, tell us how you've been able to resolve it. And if you haven't, perhaps share with us. I do think that part of the national dialogue that political parties are talking about convening with different sectors of society, there has to be a conversation, around crime and the protection of people that are defenseless, particularly when you look at small businesses that are, by the way, employs the most amount of people in South Africa as a sector of our economy. Small businesses are the lifeline and the bloodline of the South African economy. And if small businesses close down due to fear of extortionism and other forms of criminality, then that is economic sabotage. And so there has to be a serious conversation around why it is that it's so easy for crime to go unabated in South Africa, and very importantly, why it is that oftentimes it is infiltrated into our law enforcement agencies that are meant to be doing the work that they're supposed to be doing. And I'm taking your reactions to that. Please give us that call and let us know on 086 000 2032. But have a listen at this. Essential Cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
Top stories for this hour. Dismissed MK party members head to court and special sitting to be held for outgoing Chief Justice Raymond Zondo. Good morning, I'm Eva Chipa. 10 of the 18 dismissed MK party members of parliament have approached the High Court in the Western Cape to seek reinstatement. The matter will be heard today. In court papers, they're asking that the termination of their MK party membership and removal from parliament be overturned. New MK party members of parliament are expected to be sworn in this week. The Special Investigating Unit, the SIU, says it will investigate if the OR Tambo municipality in the Eastern Cape has incurred wasteful expenditure in its procurement of 5 water supply structures. Last week, President Cyril Ramaphosa signed a proclamation which was gazetted following allegations of unlawful and improper conduct against some municipal officials between January the 1st, 2018 and August the 16th of this year. The SIU has also been authorized to recover any financial losses that the state has suffered as a result. SIU spokesperson Keza Khanyago.
The SIU will investigate allegations of serious maladministration for the construction of Signal Hill Reservoir and appointment of Amatola Water Board in 2019. 2. The construction of Mandluli Bulk Water Scheme and the appointment of Jinasonke Engineering. 3. The construction of Mkanduli Bulk Water Scheme and the appointment of Kwalu Construction. 4. The supply and installation of pump at Mhlontlo Cluster 1 and the appointment of Valatone 94cc and Phoenix Tanks Pty Limited in 2019. 5. The electrification of Mthatha Dam and Highbury and the construction of Thornbill Clear Water Pump Station.
In other news, members of the Judiciary will today hold a special sitting in the Constitutional Court in Johannesburg in honor of the outgoing Chief Justice Raymond Zondo. This follows a function last night to celebrate Zondo's 27-year career in the Judiciary as he's set to retire at the end of this month. Addressing guests, Zondo emphasized the significance of the role of the public in ensuring that those responsible for state capture were held accountable.
Of course, greater challenges lay ahead of me when I was chairperson of the commission. I will eternally be grateful for the support that I received together with those who were in the commission with me. The support we received from the general public of South Africa through very difficult times. That support kept us going even when it was very dark, because wherever I went, I always met people who said, thank you for the job you are doing for the country. And that, for me, was such a motivation that we could not let the people of South Africa down.
And looking further afield, the former US President Barack Obama says now that President Joe Biden has passed the torch to Kamala Harris, it's up to Democrats to fight for an America they believe in and elect her as the next president. Addressing the Democratic National Convention in Chicago, Obama also accused Harris's rival Donald Trump of seeking to divide the US.
It is one of the oldest tricks in politics. From a guy whose act has, let's face it, gotten pretty stale. We do not need 4 more years of bluster and bumbling and chaos. We have seen that movie before, and we all know that the sequel is usually worse.
Meanwhile, the former First Lady Michelle Obama also took to the stage to declare that hope was making a comeback.
Something wonderfully magical is in the air, isn't it? We're feeling it here in this arena, but it's spreading all across this country we love. A familiar feeling that's been buried too deep for far too long. It's the contagious power of hope.
Recapping the top story for this hour. 10 of the 18 dismissed MK Party members of Parliament have approached the High Court in the Western Cape to seek reinstatement. The matter will be heard today. I'll be back at the bottom of the hour for SAfm News. I'm Eva Chipa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all by OUTsurance Essential. Get a quote today. SMS CAR to 43187. Your own panel beater is like your favorite holiday destination. Not everyone's top 10, but perfect for you. OUTsurance gets it. That's why, with OUTsurance Essential, your claim is paid out in cash to use your own panel beater. Also get up to 1 million rand liability cover and other great benefits at a low cost. OUTsurance Essential is priced for cars older than 5 years, valued under 125,000 rand and not financed. SMS CAR to 43187 or call 08600 60,000 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
The Mopuri Highway coming to Victoria is very heavy this morning, a lot worse than normal. You're going to sit from Theo Martins down through the bend all the way down to SK and Patelli. It looks like something may have happened between the bend and Bremer Street to cause that backlog. R59 in from the Vale, still a heavy queue through Michelle Avenue up towards the N12 Reading interchange area. Durban, the M4 Southern Freeway, there's some real pressure this morning. It's not the Congela Umbilo area, it's before you get there. It's Jacobs Clarewood. There's a really big backlog on the Southern Freeway coming up towards the M7 Bluff exit. Cape Town a crash on the N7 leaving Mitchell's Plain at Govan and Becky Bridge. So some extra delays there. And as we've been warning you with the wet weather conditions around Cape Town, everything on a go slow. So just had a little bit of extra time to get through. You can see that on Marine Drive this morning, backed already from Sunningdale through all the way to Racecourse Road in Milnerton. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SAfm Sports headlines. Plenty of action to look forward to as the Bafana coach Hugo Broos has named his squad but he's excluded the MLS stars. And in athletics, Akani Simbine and Wade van Niekerk ready to shine at the Lausanne Diamond League alongside the global stars. Details around 7:30.
SAfm Breakfast, helping you navigate your day.
7 minutes after 7 o'clock. Good morning. It is SAfm Breakfast. My name is Oliver Dixon. Thank you so much for being with us. Really do appreciate it. In this hour, we're going to continue our conversation on criminal extortionism. We're going to be speaking to the Deputy Minister of Defence, Bantu Olomisa, in a very short while, very specifically around the request for the deployment of the military in Mthatha. You would recall that Minister Olomisa had last week or over the weekend said that he had been in conversation with the Premier of the province, Oscar Mabuyane, about potential intervention interventions and then had taken a visit to Mthatha about it. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be reflecting on Minister Leon Schreider's presentation before the Portfolio Committee in Parliament yesterday. That's the Home Affairs Minister answering questions around the 95 Libyan nationals, how they got into the country, and what is the visa violations that may have potentially taken place over there. He also gave clarity on Chidima Adichene's citizenship or at least the theft of citizenship that had happened there and the implication of her parents in it. We're going to be speaking about that. And then a little bit later on, we're going to be talking about property and the property market. We're expecting a interest rate announcement from the Reserve Bank on the interest rate next month. It could be good news if you're in the market to buy a home. We're going to bring you some of that details a little bit later on. Give us a call, 086 000 2032. I'm also taking your WhatsApp voice on 0614 104 107. Tweet me at Oliver_speaking on Twitter, Oliver Dixon on Facebook, 9 minutes after 7.
Catch the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7 on SABC2 as the top 8 take on a new challenge. This week, they delve into the world of social media and learn what it takes for a recipe video to go viral online. Working together, they must create their own unique version of a famous social media bake. That's the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday at 7, repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. only on SABC2.
Big ups to all the women of Africa Dzonga, incredible characters in various fields. When you set your mind onto something, your winning mentality is difficult to defeat, on and off the field. Your excellence in the world of sport speaks volumes. You are the great inspiration to the nation. Happy Women's Month, courtesy of SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
37-year-old Tebogo got a really great deal on his car insurance premium from Outsurance. He pays an amazing 762 Rand per month to insure his white 2018 Ford Figo and beyond. He now has extra cash every month to go out for a meal with a friend. Get an Outsurance quote today. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754 now. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
You are listening to SAfm Breakfast.
What's going on in the Eastern Cape, very specifically Mthatha? Is there a crisis of extortionism, or is this just opportunistic crime? Should the military be deployed to protect vulnerable communities and businesses? The Minister of Defence, Bantolo Misa, joins me on this morning. General, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Really do appreciate it. You had a conversation with the Premier of the Eastern Cape, Oscar Mabuyane. Take us to the details of that.
Well, the conversation was between myself and the current Minister of Police, Mr. Mchunu, during the Lekgotla meeting, and also the Premier as well, who complained that the situation is getting out of hand, especially in the Wild Coast where there are major constructions. And then, of course, this is not new. Last year, I invited Minister of Police, Begicele. He came down to Mthatha and he met the community, and the community raised concerns and complaints, and he promised to attend to that. Last week, the Minister of Police and the Premier, Mabuyane, visited hotspots in the Eastern Cape. And of course, the Premier is of the view that the military must be involved. I'm happy that yesterday the police department has released a statement to the effect that they are deploying detectives and police in the Eastern Cape in those hotspot areas, in particular in Mthatha. And we are hoping that after they have satisfied themselves and gathered enough intelligence, they can approach, if they cannot control the situation, they can approach the president. It's only the president who can instruct soldiers. It's the president and parliament, no other person. So if we are called upon to assist the police, The SANDF is ready anytime, but on condition that such an instructions come from the president. That's the law of the country.
We've received reports from activists on the ground saying that they've actually seen the military in the streets of Mthatha. Can you give us clarity on whether or not the military has been activated for anything related to that in Mthatha?
No, I don't have any. We have not taken any decision of that kind. But the soldiers in Mthatha, remember that there's a camp there in Mthatha. So if they are there going to fill petrol, or they are going to do shopping and so on, or come and fetch troops to go and work and drop them. So they are not bad not to drive through the streets of Mthatha.
Yeah. Just maybe on this, can you give us a sense from your own thinking about whether or not you think the military would be well placed to help solve this problem in Mthatha and across the Eastern Cape? This is a criminality problem. The military is not law enforcement. You know, the military is there to protect our sovereignty. Can you give us a sense on whether you think it would be a good idea to do so?
You never... I cannot come up with that to give you a precise opinion on that. The law says the police are responsible for fighting crime, but in the event that the police are unable to carry their mission, they are free to approach the defense to assist them, but not to expect the defense force to arrest people. They don't have powers to do so. If they want to, for instance, to cordon off a certain area or suburb, the soldiers can assist them only on that, or whether doing searches in key areas where they have assessed that the opponents or the people they want to arrest are dangerous. They can do that. So it's written, it's in black and white, it's law. So for you to ask me for my opinion in this particular case, the Minister of Police has deployed detectives. They need to make sure that they invest more in future throughout the country on crime intelligence rather. And also it must not end up there. The criminal justice as a whole, it's no point in arresting people today and tomorrow you release them. Without charging them.
Deputy Minister, let's have a listen at this WhatsApp voice note from one of our listeners.
Good afternoon, Oliver. Oliver, a clueless man. Where this man is staying? Because 2020, my truck was robbed alcohol there by Mthatha. I was going to deliver alcohol at the Jumbo cash and carry. Then the policeman said to me that I must, before we enter at the Mthatha, you have to find a security company that is going to escort you to go to your shop that you are going to deliver, then come back, then you leave Mthatha. So that guy, you don't know nothing about Mthatha. Where it's come from? Thank you.
Now, that's a listener responding to an earlier claim by the ANC in Mthatha saying that extortionism is a new thing in the Eastern Cape, and that they need to deal with it because they're still learning the nature of it. Now, obviously, extortionism seems, as many people say, have been happening for many, many years. Perhaps a last question. At a national government level, crime is dealt with in a multi-sectoral kind of way. In what ways can we, Deputy Minister, convene the various sectors of society around this conversation around crime that sabotages the economy and businesses?
Well, fortunately, we are having a pending first meeting of the GNU's security cluster, which is scheduled to take place in 2 weeks' time. Last week, we had a separate cluster which deals with socio-economic related matters. So it's that question of yours. I'm sure we will have a solution and an answer as to what kind of program and plan, which would also include the society. What campaigns must we come up with? Obviously, we have to get the intelligence from the police, from the State Intelligence SAA. What is it? SSA. So they must brief us. We are new in this setup here, but if they give us information, some of us who have been in charge of these issues in the past, we can give them guide.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Really do appreciate it. Deputy Minister of Defence, Bantu Olomis. I'm taking your reactions to that. Give us a call, 086 000 2032, 18 minutes after 7.
Every day, our children are exposed to relentless marketing of unhealthy foods where they live, learn, and play. This aggressive marketing of unhealthy foods to children can shape their eating habits and food preferences for the rest of their lives. I'm your host, Crystal Audison. Is big food stalking our children? Watch Chew on This on healer.org on Thursday, 15th August at 3 p.m.
Big ups to all the women of Africa Dzonga. Incredible characters in various fields. When you set your mind onto something, your winning mentality is difficult to defeat. On and off the field. Your excellence in the world of sport speaks volumes. You are the great inspiration to the nation. Happy Women's Month, courtesy of SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
SAfm is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAfm and SMS the keyword SAfm88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAfm.
20 minutes after 7 o'clock, you're listening to SAfm Breakfast. My name is Oliver Dixon. Thank you so much for being with us. The Minister of Home Affairs, Leon Schreiber, appeared before the Portfolio Committee in Parliament yesterday, giving answers on the Libyan nationals who were at a military training or a suspected military training facility in South Africa, as well as giving clarity on Adichena's citizenship and the status thereof. We make sense of this with immigration lawyer Ashraf Esop in a very short while. So do join us on that conversation on 0614. You can send us a WhatsApp voice note on 0614 104 107. Give us a call 086 000 2032. Ashraf, good morning. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Perhaps to start here, and it's useful to perhaps explain to us how this works, because the Department of Home Affairs then told us yesterday in Parliament that part of why these Libyan nationals went undetected for quite a while is because they came into the country because the Department of International Relations system was offline. The Department of International Relations officer at the foreign mission gave them their visas on handwritten paper documents. Some of the documents and forms they had to fill out were outdated forms. There was no indication that they were actually going to be applying for study visas, but they were granted study visas nonetheless. And that person said, well, they never escalated this because they thought these applicants met all the requirements. Why is it that the Department of International Relations is involved and not directly Home Affairs officials? Can you give us a sense of clarity in explaining that process? Ashraf? Ashraf, are you with us? Seems like we don't have Ashraf Esop there. We're going to try and get him back on the line. We have been given additional information, such as by the Minister of Home Affairs, such as that critical information about like just date of births, for instance, were not filled out on the form. But very importantly, by the way, none of these 95 Libyan nationals appeared at the embassy or the foreign mission. The application was processed through an agent, and it was the agent that appeared and handed in the documents, and yet nonetheless these documents were passed through. When the system was offline, the DIRCO official did not consult with their supervisor, did not consult with their manager, and at no point at a later stage indicated that these were handwritten visa applications because the system was offline, the DIRCO system, that is. Home Affairs also told us that they have a 40% vacancy rate, a nearly 40% vacancy rate at foreign missions across the world, and this is why they use the services in collaboration with the Department of International Relations at the foreign missions as attaches. So we need to get clarity on, from a process perspective, on how this operated. We're struggling to make connection with Ashraf Esop at the moment. As soon as we do, we're going to get some responses from him on that. Give us a call, 086 000 2032, 086 000 2032.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
We take some of your reactions to the conversations this hour. Let's speak to Bramoro out in Mangaung. Bramoro, good morning. Go for it.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm fantastic, so go for it.
Thank you. Home Affairs needs to admit their mistake. They shouldn't blame DECO in this. If you are outside the country, you're a migrant, you want to be in South Africa, you apply for a visa at the South African embassy or through VFS in some selected countries. But the job of Home Affairs doesn't end there. When you fly into the country, you don't meet DECO officials at the airport or borders. You rather meet Home Affairs officials in the name of immigration officers or border management authority, depending on where you used to enter the country. So if these 95 Libyan nationals manage to secure visas from their country, entered in, we don't have to blame DECO. DECO have done their part, even if their system were offline. Let's forget about that. Let's check at the point of entry, where the immigration or BMA officials there, they are those who are supposed to pick up the information and blame. We have to blame them. Or how many times we hear confiscation of contraband at the various border posts? Why are we not bringing DECO in it? So Home Affairs should admit their mistake, apologize, and promise never to repeat such a mistake.
Yeah,
DECO is totally ignorant.
We're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your call, Bramoro. Really appreciate it. We do have connection with Ashraf Esop, immigration lawyer, right now. Ashraf, just from a process perspective, what happened what happened that wasn't supposed to happen, and what didn't happen that was supposed to happen around the application of visas by these 95 nationals?
Well, first of all, there's too many unanswered questions. Now, let me tell you typically how a study visa is extended. A study visa is made in the country of origin, and where we don't have an embassy presence, it must be sent to the nearest South African embassy, so in a neighboring country. There's a whole host of documents that accompany such an application. Now, one of the documents that you have to present is an acceptance letter by the institution that you've paid up your school fees and it is valid until such and such date when you complete your studies. Another is that you have to prove that you've taken up medical aid to assist in the period that you are in the Republic. A third is that this entire document, together with other documents such as a police clearance from the country of origin, as well as a medical and radiological and proof of funds. So it's a massive application, has to be sent to the embassy. Now, where the embassy has a visa facilitation service, it has to be sent to that VFS office, and they will transmit it to the embassy. Now, generally, the embassies, and since last year, because of the huge backlog at head office, have now been given the authority to determine the outcome of the application, which they've done. There's nothing untoward in having a written application or a written visa on a sticker stuck into your passport. There's nothing unusual or odd about that. Different embassies around the world are empowered differently. Only head office, as far as I know, and some other embassies of South Africa will have the ability to print the application. Now, the official receiving the application in the Department of Home Affairs office, if there is such an official, he will have a look and then make a determination on whether such a visa will be extended or not. In my view, that official should have asked
how come 95 or 100 or 200, now we told there's much more in the country, were all applying to come and study security services in the Republic? The second thing is that official either could be a DIRCO official or it could be a Home Affairs official. He would have checked with the department and SIPC and CIRA, the regulatory body, to say, listen, is this a legitimate organization? Does it actually exist? How long it exists? Is there a SARS number? Etc., etc., before he made such a decision to grant the application. Remember, the minister is saying these human errors is creating the problem. If there was a digitization of something like that, it will remove the human element and the machine or the process will almost be directed and dictated by machines.
Yeah. At what point, and you mentioned that DIRCO official can be a part of this. Explain to us in the value chain and process what role DIRCO plays at foreign missions.
So DIRCO is in charge of all South Africa's international presence. They run the embassies, they staff it, but they also have to have, in most cases, they've got to have a Department of Home Affairs official doing that part of the embassy or consulate services. Most foreign countries, as well as South Africa, has two offices in one. DIRCO is the international presence, and Home Affairs does some other, whatever needs to be done regarding visas. Yeah, the consular work. So sometimes they're short-staffed, so they just piggyback one service on the other. Not every DIRCO official is a trained Home Affairs official, and not every trained Home Affairs official is au fait with every part of the act. But surely, if you posted abroad and you know that you are in charge of visas, which is a very, very important part of the international landscape, you should be adequately trained. You should have a standard operating procedure. Secondly, there has to be a number of filters. One decision maker can't just make the decision. Surely it must be signed off by some other consular official. Now, these facts are not known to us. But in answer to your question, that's what should have happened.
Yep, we're going to have to leave it there. Ashraf Esop, thank you so much for your time and your insights. Really, really valuable. Really appreciate it. It is 7:30. Let's take your latest headlines.
In news making headlines for this hour, police are investigating an incident in which one person died in a stampede at the Home Affairs offices in Marabastad in Pretoria. Over 20 people have been hospitalized after being injured in the incident. In other news, 10 of the 18 dismissed MK Party members of Parliament have approached the High Court in the Western Cape to seek reinstatement. And lastly, the Chief Justice designate Mandisa Maya has hailed the outgoing Chief Justice Raymond Zondo for championing the advancement of women in the judiciary. President Cyril Ramaphosa appointed Justice Zondo to the helm of the judiciary in 2022. I'll be back at 8 with more news. For SAfm News, I'm Eva Chipa.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Stays heavy on the R59 this morning. For motorists coming up from the Vaal, there's a really big queue between Michelle Avenue and the Reading interchange. You might want to come off at Swat Copies or at Michelle to avoid the worst of that. The Mike 1 this morning, Boyston through to Empire Road stays really heavy. An earlier crash in Pretoria on the M1 south at Sefakumakatu, that's the Montana exit. That traffic seems to be slow but moving. That's the call there. So that's an improved situation. The Mopani Highway to Pretoria, big backlogs this morning from Theo Martins, Wonder Park all the way down towards Bremer. Just factor in some queues on the R80. Durban side, the M4, a little bit sluggish. It was heavy this morning. Jacobs Clarewood, that is eased, but just from that sort of Clarewood area all the way through to the city centre, it stays really busy. Big truck crash at Bergville, probably will take a while for that situation and seem to be cleared up, so expect some delays leaving KZN on your way through the Van Rieman's Pass as you approach that Bergville exit. It's right there. Cape Town, we're going to crash on the R300 at Van Riebeek Road in the Kales River area. So big traffic up that route from the Delft side. That's unusual. It's been flowing nicely lately. No traffic lights again. Bosman's Dam Road at the N7. So Edgemead, Summer Greens, Boortesakkel very heavily disrupted. And Marine Drive through the rain this morning. Under pressure from Sunningdale right through to Marine Drive in the Milnerton, right through to Racecourse Road Junction on Marine Drive in the Milnerton area. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
This is SAfm Sport with Zai Khan.
A very good morning. Let's kick things off with Bafana coach Hugo Broos naming his squad for the upcoming AFCON qualifiers, once again leaving out MLS stars in Jabula Blom and Bongo Kushle Hlongwane. Now, despite their impressive performances in the United States, with Hlongwane becoming Minnesota United's second highest goal scorer, the duo has not convinced Bruges to earn a call-up. Vitesse forward Simon van Duvenboden makes his debut in the squad as Bafana prepare for crucial matches against Uganda and South Sudan. Hugo Broos' team is currently on an 8-match unbeaten run. Rugby, Springbok coach Rassie Erasmus has bolstered the squad for their Rugby Championship showdown with New Zealand. Returning to the team are World Cup winners Jaden Hendrickse, Steven Kitchoff and Jasper Visser, who are back from injury and suspension. Erasmus emphasizing their experience and skill, which will be key as the Boks face their arch rivals. The team remains unbeaten after 2 victories against Australia. In the meantime, the South Africa finished under-18 international series undefeated. They convincingly beat England at Paarl High School 39-14. This victory added to their impressive win against Ireland and Georgia. Athletics, Botswana's Letsile Tebogo will headline the 200 meters at the Lausanne Diamond League, taking on American stars Fred Curley and Arion Knighton. South African sprint sensation Akani Simbine returns to the track, and that's in the 100 meters, aiming to continue his strong form against a field of world-class athletes. Joining him, Wade van Niekerk, the 400-meter Olympic champion and world record holder, will compete in the 400 meters, eager to build on his return to form. In the pole vault event, Aman Duplantis, fresh off his world record of 6.25 meters, will face some stiff competition in a unique lakeside setting. Meanwhile, 4-time Olympian Stephen Makoka has issued a passionate appeal to Athletics South Africa to enhance its support for the marathon running. At the recent Olympic Games in Paris, Makoka and Elroy Galant represented South Africa in the 42.2 kilometer marathon. Having finished his 4th Olympics, Makoka is taking time to reflect on his year.
I can just say now I'm going to take a little bit of break. I mean, we had to plan for this for almost a year. With the results we got today, we are grateful, and thanks to South Africa for the support, thanks to SASCOC for the opportunity that I got, and then I hope the next time if I do qualify again for the Olympics, I'll bring the better results. So, I mean, we prepare for this for a very long time. We hope for the best results. We got the better results, but for now I've got nothing planned. I'm just going to take a little bit of break and then...
Moving to cycling, Primož Roglič proved he has fully recovered from his Tour de France ending crash with a stage 4 victory at the Vuelta a España. The 3-time Vuelta winner triumphed atop the daunting closing climb to Pico Viejas to claim his record-equaling 4th success in one of cycling's 3 grand tours. More sport, top of the hour for SAfm Breakfast. I'm Zai Khan.
The Business Update on SAfm.
We're going to be bringing you a lot of business news in the 8 o'clock hour. Do stick around for that. Qatar Airways, they finally bought Airlink. We're going to be talking about that. We're also going to be talking about the fact that Philip Morris International wants to go out of the business of cigarette manufacturing. That's fascinating. And then we're also going to be bringing you business news around the HSBC mulling over exiting South Africa. But right now, Untalang is going to give us the terribly sad news around Cecil. What's going on there, Untalang?
So there's a lot going on there, being hurt by, lower chemical prices, lower commodity prices, and just broader concerns on the macroeconomic environment. So to try and, fix things, Sasol's new top boss, Simon Baloyi, and his team are working on turning around the company's fortunes and strengthening its balance sheet. At the group's results presentation, Baloyi said that Sasol will be assessing its assets, focusing on its global chemicals division, and this may result in selling off underperforming assets. This is the second asset review in less than 5 years. In 2020, the group was in somewhat of the same position where it had to sell some of its units, including stakes in businesses in Mozambique and Nigeria, to help it pay down a debt. When the latest asset disposal program was announced, the question on everyone's mind was whether Sasol would be selling its 50% stake in Lake Charles. Baloyi has confirmed that it won't be ditching that business, saying the company might only consider this in the future because selling the stake now would not lead to good returns for shareholders. Investors, in the meantime, not really upbeat about this plan. Sasol was down over 6% in yesterday's trading session, and over a 5-year period, that share price tanking over 50%. I spoke to an analyst earlier this month, Wayne McCurry from FNB Wealth and Investment, who's still quite bullish on Sasol. He says that we could be rather seeing a recovery soon as that macro environment improves and as commodity prices, particularly chemical prices, also start recovering. But my concern here really is that but obviously when they do start selling those assets, we will start seeing that debt declining.
Yeah, let's go on to Aveng. They considering splitting the South African Australia business?
Yeah, so a big shake-up at Avengers looming. The infrastructure building and mining group wants to split into two separate companies, McConnell Dowell and Avenge Limited, so they can each get the funding they need to grow and invest in their own way. So McConnell Dowell is a construction player operating mainly in Australia. This business is the star performer of the group, contributing over 70% to its revenue. Now, plans for that business include a dual listing on the local bourse and in Australia. Its other business, Avenge Limited, houses its mining division, Moolmans, which makes up only 9% of group revenue. Plans for Moolmans include exploring alternative ownership options and potentially introducing broad-based BEE capital. The group has not announced or given a time frame on when or how long it'll take to finalize this move. It's working with Macquarie Capital to assist with the implementation process, which may see Avenge Limited delisting from the JSE while McConnell Dowell lists separately.
Yeah, give us those indicators this morning. How did the markets close yesterday?
So stocks in Asia snapped a 3-day winning streak as a global market rally takes a breather. We also saw issues in China weighing on those Asian markets as the People's Bank of China kept rates unchanged despite growth concerns. We also saw a slump in Chinese tech stocks on concerns over the country's consumption outlook. This comes after Walmart said it will be selling its stake in JD.com. With that, we're seeing Hong Kong's Hang Seng taking the biggest knock, down 0.96%, while China's Shanghai index trades 0.4% lower. Over in Wall Street, futures are in the green ahead of the Fed minutes and US payrolls. In South Africa, markets taking a breather as well following global peers. The all share pretty flat, down a tepid 0.02% in yesterday's trade. The local unit, in the meantime, reversing some of those losses we saw. About an hour ago, it was sitting at 17.88, and now it's at 17.80 to the dollar.
Yep, thank you so much for that. Really do appreciate it. Daleng will join us back in the third hour of the show. We're also going to be bringing you just after 8 o'clock a conversation on the protest action, industrial action taking place at the Heineken beer plant in Gqeberha just after 8 o'clock. Do stick around for that. 19 minutes to the top of the hour.
Africa Update on SAfm.
Advocate Sipa Mantula is back with us for the Africa Update. This morning we begin out in Morocco, Advocate Mantula, where the king has pardoned nearly 5,000 people convicted and wanted on charges linked to illegal cannabis cultivation.
Refreshing morning, Oliver and Jumbo Africa to the listeners. Indeed, coming from Rabat, Morocco, the king has pardoned nearly 5,000 cannabis farming convicts. Remember that Morocco in 2021 legalized cannabis for medical purpose. Now they don't allow it for recreational purpose. Now they are pushing in terms of medical cannabis, and now the king opted to give them a pardon so that he can ease the prison conditions for these farmers. We know very well that in the African continent we have Rwanda, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Eswatini that have gone on industrial cannabis and medical cannabis. This is a very interesting news coming from North Africa.
Yeah, and in the DRC, the DRC Congo is on standby for first vaccines to fight Mpox outbreak. Of course, this after President Ramaphosa's speech at congratulating the Africa CDC.
That's quite true, but again, Oliver, look where we are getting these vaccines. They're coming from the US and Japan. It means that Africa is still not ready to heal itself or deal with these epidemics. Now, the WHO has already raised the global public health emergency for the second time in 2 years, remember, since 2022. Now, we are talking about here 3.5 million doses that the Ministry of DRC, Samuel Roger Kamba Mulamba, saying that they are expecting these pledges coming from Japan and the US to assist the DRC. There's a lot of money that will be thrown in there, Oliver, almost 45 million euros that will be for awareness campaigns, patient care, and many more things that will include these vaccines that have to assist the Eastern DRC and DRC as a whole, and other 13 African countries that have been mentioned by the WHO and CDC.
Yeah, and in Zimbabwe, now that the SADC summit is over, seems like activists are still having a tough time.
They're still having a tough time, but the ZANU-PF Politburo member, Christopher Mutsuvanga, who has been very vocal, is now saying that the security sector in Zimbabwe have lived up to its billing ahead of the SADC summit. Remember that people have been arrested. So he says that it is important for them to release them because that will also go to their expenses, putting them in jail, and saying that there will be no interruptions, there will be no interference into the state of Zimbabwe. Now that the SADC summit is done, it is important for them to be released. Here we are talking about 200 civil society activists and opposition members who were arrested since June. Now, as you know, Oliver, the issues of SADC and Zimbabwe has been going to and fro, but as you see from the ZANU-PF, they are asking now for their release because they know that they will be having challenges in terms of capacity in their prisons.
Yeah. And in Haiti, the police in Haiti's capital tear gassed hundreds of peaceful protesters yesterday. What happened?
You know, the issue of the gangsters, your barbecues there who are still harassing the people of Haiti since the passing of Juvenal Moise in 2021, it's still persisting, even if you have the Kenyans who are there to support the UN, what they call the support mission of the police. So the community is still angry, Oliver, to saying that it appears that the government is failing to deal with these gangsters that are in Haiti, and they are calling for government to arrest this situation. Remember, we have 400 Kenyan police officers who are on the UN-backed mission, but it appears that nothing is coming forth for the people of Haiti as they're still struggling with these gangsters who are ravaging the capital city of Port-au-Prince.
And on this day in 1994, the French troops left Rwanda.
That is 30 years ago. Remember, the Rwanda genocide started in April, but it was only in August that we had the last French troops pulling out of Rwanda. It's also coinciding with our democratic elections in South Africa. If you remember, in 1994, that the issues of the genocide happened in Rwanda. We were going through democracy, but in Rwanda, you had the French forces who were under the UN peacekeeping mission who were stationed in Rwanda, that they have to leave Rwanda on this day in 1994. Asante sana, Oliver, as was leading the conversation, SAfm observing the Women's Month.
Advocate Mantula, thank you so much for that. Really do appreciate it. If you're in the market to buy a home, you definitely want to stick around for this conversation.
Stay on top of all meaningful, top trending stories right here on SAfm. Leading the conversation.
When there is an interest rate upturn due to an inflation upturn, we're always told that it's a difficult time to sell your home because it's too expensive to get your home sold. More importantly, when there is an interest rate downturn, that is to say when the interest rate goes down and it's favorable to us, we're told good time to buy a house. And then, you have what happened in 2020. So we never really know when a good time to buy or not to buy is. And sometimes that leaves prospective home buyers in a state of decision paralysis. Herschel Jarwitz, who is with Jarwitz Property, joins us to make sense of this. Herschel, we're expecting a interest rate announcement from the Reserve Bank in a couple of weeks. And as a home seller, you keep a keen eye on this. What does it tell us about the market?
Morning, Oliver. Thanks for having me on the show. Well, we're waiting to see what the Reserve Bank is going to do, but it seems to be that we're going to get a rate cut.
Ooh, Herschel, your line's cutting there. Let's see if we can get it again. Sorry, Herschel, just say that again. Sorry, your line cut there for a second.
Okay. Can you hear me? Is that better?
Much better. Go for it.
Okay. So you're correct. We're waiting to see what the Reserve Bank says in terms of interest rates in the coming weeks. But the perception and the expectation is that when interest rates come down, property prices rise, and similarly as interest rates go up, property prices come down. But I think in the current circumstances, what we will see is an increase in demand and activity from buyers, but it's going to be, I think, some time before that translates into price growth for people trying to sell their properties.
Yeah, what has been the driving factor behind homeowners who have been putting their homes on the market? Has it been immigration sales, or is it property owners who just want to downscale? What's been the driving factor?
I think there are a whole combination of factors. Firstly, there's always just a natural flow of people selling their property. So, for example, you buy your first property, you get married, you have a child, you're earning more money, so you're looking to buy a bigger property for family, for whatever it might be. So there's always a natural turn of property. And then there are always the additional factors. So correctly, immigration, or certainly in South Africa, the buzzword has been semigration from provinces like Gauteng down to the Western Cape. I think we've also had quite a marked increase in sellers because of financial pressure. So interest rates have risen from 7% to 11.75% in a period of 18 months to 2 years. So we've certainly seen an increase in sellers due to financial pressure. And then once again, downsizing, retirement. So there are a whole combination of factors. But the specific factor at the moment is the financial pressure due to the increase in interest rates that we've seen.
And just lastly, we're on the precipice of what could potentially be the biggest stimulus to South African households, at least South African working class households, and that is the operationalization of the two-pot system, which analysts estimate could bring about 30 billion rand in cash into the South African economy in the fourth quarter. What impact would that have on the property market, if any at all?
That's correct. In fact, they're estimating on the upside it could be as much as 70 billion rand coming into the economy. So I think from a residential property point of view, I think potentially two impacts. Number one, it's going to give the opportunity for current homeowners who may be in arrears to pay up on their mortgages, on their home loans, and just bring them up to arrears, which takes away that financial stress selling, which is never good for homeowners and the market. And once again, I think you may well see people who have accumulated enough money and who tapped into that first pot, either using that money to buy their new property, or potentially to buy a property for investment or retirement purposes. So either way, I think it's going to be positive for the residential market.
Yeah, Herschel, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. If you are somebody listening to this conversation right now and you're thinking about your two-pot system, are you going to be withdrawing from your savings pot when you're finally able to do so? Are you already filling out the paperwork? Have you spoken to your HR at work? What's going on? And if you are going to do that, I mean, it's none of my business, but I'm curious, what are you going to do with that money that you're going to withdraw from your saving pot as a lump sum? I would love to hear from you on that. Give us a call, 086 000 2032. 9 minutes to the top of the hour.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Crash in Boksburg. It's on Trickard Road at Kingfisher. So Trickard Road, if you come up from the 554 North Boundary Road, I think they call it, on your way towards the Sunwood Park, Boksburg area, that section of Trickard Road, very heavily backed up. Staying east to crash on the N12 at Rondebolt Road. So coming out of Benoni into Boksburg, there's some pressure there today. And Bayers Nordia is quite heavy. There's queues coming out from Lifestyle across the highway into Fairland. That possibly is traffic lights. Traffic lights also out on Hans Schoeman down at Ostrich. If you're coming out of Rampark Ridge on your way to Randburg, that stays busy. Crash on the N14, high collision zone this time of morning at Krugersdorp Highway before you get to the M1 Brockfontein interchange. Traffic backing up to the R55 Pretoria West exit, and the Mopani Highway stays very heavy from Theo Martins down to Bremer this morning. Crash at Durban, it's on the N3 inbound just at Spaghetti Junction, so quite a backlog coming through from the Paradise Valley side. M4 is heavy, city bound below Colgella into the CBD. Other side of town from Blue Lagoon up to Virginia Airport, that section of the M4 on your way to Umhlanga is slow. And a breakdown before you get to Umhlanga on the N2, so coming through from Sibaya, that's busy as well. Cape Town, a crash after the Stellenbosch Arterial exit on the R300, so between Stellenbosch Arterial and Van Riebeeck Road. The R300 going north from Delft is quite heavily backed up, and no traffic lights again on the N7 Bosmansdam Road junctions. So all sorts of traffic delays out that way, and a breakdown on Cape Town's N2 inbound at Rappenberg Road, keeping pressure up from the Langa side as you move towards that obstruction on your way to Hospital Bends. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
In August, we celebrate our amazing women farmers who nourish and clothe our nation.
Farmers and researchers and academia can work closely.
Catch Living Land on Sundays at 11 a.m. on SABC2.
Tugs have a great plan to illustrate that they are not just intelligent students in class, but on the field of play as well. Meanwhile, the Zuma-based outfit want nothing except for 3 points to run away from the unpleasant zone. The capital city confronts eThekwini. This is the Hollywood Bet Super League. Catch the Mzansi Queens of the beautiful game. University of Pretoria Ladies FC versus Lindelani Ladies FC on Sunday 25 August at 11 a.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
You are listening to SAfm Breakfast.
African Tikkun is a youth development agency, and they're calling on corporate South Africa to act urgently, decisively to solve the youth unemployment crisis in South Africa. Dr. Onyi Nyaneri joins me for this conversation this morning. Dr. Onyi, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. Perhaps to start here, there's been various policy interventions such as the youth employment stimulus led by the President's office. In Gauteng, we've had the TEPO 1 million project where they attempted to create 1 million job opportunities for young people. But corporate South Africa doesn't seem to have taken much liking to these. Otherwise, they would have solved the crisis. What is the barriers for corporate South Africa in solving South Africa's youth unemployment crisis?
Good morning, and thank you for having me. Really wonderful to be here. In terms of your question around what are the challenges, first of all, I do want to say that there has been some level of adoption in terms of corporate South Africa getting involved in employment programs. For example, we've seen a significant amount of corporates getting involved in things like the Youth Employment Service. Yes, the Youth Employment Service has not achieved the 1 million jobs that's it's planned, but there has been lots of progress in terms of jobs being created. What is the challenge? The challenge here is that perhaps we have too many focus. Yeah, if you look at the investment within CSI last year, 2023, corporate South Africa just on CSI, not on skills, not on anything else, spent over 11 billion rands. And so I don't believe that we have a money problem. I believe that we have perhaps a focus problem. And that's why Africa Tikkun's call is for us to no longer look at unemployment as something that perhaps government needs to solve, that we need to have an urgent unified action. We need to, as corporate South Africa, look beyond philanthropy. And I know these things are good. For example, feeding, healthcare, all wonderful. But if people are giving a handout, people are given jobs, are supported to enable jobs, that would be much more helpful, especially in a country like ours.
Yeah. Perhaps when we take a look at the corporate social responsibility element of it, right? Business owners says that we can't just employ for the sake of employing. It must add value to our bottom line, despite the fact that it may have social good in and of itself. In what ways could we perhaps craft the messaging around unemployment for business owners to take serious the work of employing, even if it doesn't necessarily add to their bottom line?
Absolutely. If you look at the challenge of unemployment, it links to security. Lots of us are building high fences in our house to protect ourselves with lots of security. It links to gangsterism. It links to teenage pregnancy. It links to unemployment it's actually a catalyst for almost all of the social ills that we have currently, because you have an unproductive nation and particularly an unproductive youth. So we can't believe that we will exist in a country where we can build our businesses and feel that we can continue to build it. Things like Arab uprising, what have happened in the eastern part of Africa recently, just happens. No one tells you when a country is going to implode or when there's going to be a crisis. So what is the value for corporate South Africa? I just want to speak to what Africa Ticon has done. Africa Ticon has focused on helping young people to create value in businesses. So when we're not asking corporate South Africa to create jobs that they don't need. We're asking corporate South Africa to create jobs that they need or others need. In the civil society, there is a big need for jobs. In so small, medium enterprises, especially really small business, there's a big need for jobs. I don't think we have a problem with jobs. I believe certain sectors have need to have funding to be able to create jobs. So those sectors that have it could then enable that and only create jobs that they need that will help their bottom line. And I think that's the conversation around youth employment service.
There's something to be said about who is unemployed in South Africa, and it is mostly ungraduated, uncertificated young people, right? Graduate unemployment in South Africa is in the single digits. It's 9%, might be slightly higher if we look specifically at young people in South Africa. But you stand a better chance of getting a job if you have a degree certificate of any sort. What are employers and business owners to do with the unskilled mass of young people who don't have degrees and don't necessarily have employable skills?
Well, it depends on how you look at it. And I agree with you. The face of unemployment is one predominantly black. It is African black. It is female and it's young. And for the most part, it's young at matric and under matric level. And the question we do need to look at is that even though people may have matric or under matric, we're no longer in a global economy where you don't need degrees or diploma to be valuable. And we have tested it in Africa Ticon on many occasions. There's something called micro-credentialing. I'll use an example. In our Women in Tech program and our Technology Transforms Life program, we combine people who have degrees and people who have only matric into our tech programs. As long as the matriculant has a pure maths and English and score 50%, I can tell you that we have seen people with matric alone outperforming people with degree and diplomas in that sense. So it's no longer a question of, what certificates have I got, is can I do the job? And our job as Africa Ticon is to develop, train, competent, confident young people who can create value and to support them. So yes, there's massive unemployment at that stage, but it's redeemable, and with like-minded organizations, we can provide young people that can do the job, irrespective of qualification.
Yeah, Dr. Onye, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. Give us a call reacting to the 086 000 2032. Send us a WhatsApp voice on 0614 104 107. I really want to know if you're going to be withdrawing from your savings pot in the two-pot system. 30 billion rand of a cash injection into the South African economy in the fourth quarter is going to do us tremendously good.
You are listening to SAfm Breakfast.
Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS CAR to 43187 now.
In your top stories for this hour, one person killed during a stampede at Home Affairs office, and dismissed MK party members head to court. Good morning, I'm Eva Chipa. Police are investigating an incident in which one person died in a stampede at the Home Affairs offices in Marabastad in Pretoria. Over 20 people have been hospitalized after being injured in the incident. The offices cater for refugees and asylum seekers. The police spokesperson, Mavela Masond.
Police can confirm that one person died and more than 20 others sustained injuries and were taken to hospital following a stampede at one of the government buildings in Pretoria on Tuesday, the 20th of August. Police have since opened an inquest docket for investigation.
The case of 8 former VIP Presidential Protection Unit officers belonging to Deputy President Paul Mashatile's detail is expected to resume in the Randburg Magistrate Court in Johannesburg this morning. A third witness, who is the owner of the car which the men allegedly blocked on the N1 highway in the city in July last year, has been testifying about the condition of the vehicle. The accused are facing charges including assault, reckless and negligent driving, pointing a firearm, as well as malicious damage to property. In other news, 10 of the 18 dismissed MK members of Parliament have approached the High Court in the Western Cape to seek reinstatement. The matter will be heard today. In court papers, they're asking that the termination of their MK party membership and removal from Parliament be overturned. This comes as new MK party members of Parliament are expected to be sworn in this week. The Chief Justice designate Mandisa Maya has hailed the outgoing Chief Justice Raymond Zondo for championing the advancement of women in the judiciary. President Cyril Ramaphosa appointed Justice Zondo to the helm of the judiciary in 2022. Experts in law have gathered in Johannesburg to bid farewell to Justice Zondo ahead of his retirement at the end of this month. Justice Maya has praised Justice Zondo for his steadfastness in transforming the judiciary.
Thank you for supporting women in the judiciary. In your short 2 years as Chief Justice, an institution that managed to have only one woman appointed as a judge president in 27 years suddenly gained 2 women judges president, more women deputy judges president, a woman deputy Chief Justice, and now in 2 weeks, a woman Chief Justice. It is no random coincidence that these tremendous gains in the struggle to diversify the judiciary in terms of gender were achieved during your tenure. Your support added significantly to the impetus for the recognition of women in this arm of the state.
And looking at some news on the continent, police in Kenya say 8 officers have been arrested for helping a man accused of several murders to escape. Collins Kalusha and 12 Eritreans are accused of being in Kenya illegally. They are said to have cut through a fence before scaling a perimeter wall at a police station in Nairobi. The Inspector General of Police, Gilbert Masengeli, says officers are searching for the escapees.
We have launched manhunt to rearrest the escapees. We further appeal to the members of public with any information that may lead to the rearrest of the suspect, especially the murder suspect, Collins Chumaisi Kalusha.
Recapping the top story for this hour. Police are investigating an incident in which one person died in a stampede at the Home Affairs offices in Marabastad in Pretoria. Over 20 people have been hospitalized after being injured in the incident. I'll be back at the bottom of the hour. For SAfm News, I'm Eva Chipa.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Coming on south at Midrand, Samrand Road this morning, just past Samrand towards Olifantsfontein, so quite a heavy queue at this hour coming through from Brockfontein. And at the same time, there's been a crash on the N14 heading to Pretoria before you get to Brockfontein, so that's a queue from the R55 Pretoria West exit. Driving into Durban, a collision near Pavilion Mall on the N3. The N3 backed up to the M13 Paradise Valley, and Cape Town, 2 issues there. One, a collision on the R300 before Van Riebeeck Road at Kales River. Traffic coming through from Delft is very heavy, and no traffic lights again this morning on Bosmansdam Road at the N7. So the N7 up from Goodwood, trying to off-ramp there is heavy. A lot of pressure behind that Bosmansdam Road, Freiburger and Edgemead Drive in that area, all very heavy as well. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
A very good morning to you in your SAfm sports headlines. We look at the Women's T20 World Cup. It has been moved to the United Arab Emirates, and that's to political instability in Bangladesh. And we also bring you the Bafana squad ready to take on the AFCON qualifiers. All this and more at around 8:30.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a quote today. SMS CAR to 43187. Your car may be old, but driving without insurance is a risk every time you're on the road. Don't take the gamble. Outsurance Essential is affordable insurance for older cars, giving up to 1 million rand liability cover and loads more. Plus, Claims are paid in cash, so you can use your own panel beater. Outsurance Essential is priced for cars older than 5 years, valued under 125,000 Rand and not financed. SMS car to 43187 or call 08600 60,000 today. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
SAfm Breakfast, helping you navigate your day.
There's ongoing industrial action at the Heineken brewery plant in Gqeberha. We're going to be talking to the union involved there in a very short while. Apparently, there's been a change in how the shifts of workers have been aligned, and that has caused a great deal of dissatisfaction. Do stick around for that conversation. A little bit later on in the hour, we're going to be speaking to Philip Morris International. Now, they want to change their business, moving away from manufacturing cigarettes, because that's what they are, primarily a cigarettes manufacturer. I'm always fascinated by businesses that change what they do into something else. You know, before Nokia made cell phones, they were manufacturing rubber boots for fishermen, right? So it's not unusual, but we're going to be speaking to Philip Morris International because they've embarked on this journey of becoming a cigarette-free company. And then we're going to be talking about that big sale, or at least that big acquisition by Qatar Airways of Airlink in South Africa. A 25% stake in South Africa's low-cost airline. What impact will this have on the domestic airline market? All of that and more coming up in this hour, 8 minutes after 8.
Get your payments done with the utmost security and convenience when you purchase a TV license now. With our new secure payment systems with a one-time PIN OTP feature and the choice of receiving your OTP via SMS or email, you can ensure prompt and secure payments. The additional use of capture will protect you against spam and automated data attractions. With TV licenses, you can enjoy watching all your favorite shows or movies that matter to you. Get yours today. Visit www.tvlic.co.za.
Borussia Dortmund understands the delight that comes with triumphing the opening clash of the league race. But Eintracht Frankfurt are not about dropping points this early. They want to complete their visit to Signal Iduna Park with 3 incredible points. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch the hot contest between Borussia Dortmund and Eintracht Frankfurt on Saturday, 24 August at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
You are listening to SAfm Breakfast.
Just about 10 minutes after 8 o'clock. Thank you so much for being with us. This is SAfm Breakfast. My name is Oliver Dixon. Thank you so much for your time this morning. Really do appreciate it. Tweet me your reactions to these conversations on at Oliver_speaking on Twitter, and you can find me on Facebook. It is Oliver Dixon over there. Send us your WhatsApp voice note 0614-104-107. Now, there is a Heineken brewery out in Gqeberha. They've implemented a new continuous 3-shift system, but apparently they did not consult with the workers or the unions involved. The union says it's a violation of the terms and conditions of employment. The Food and Allied Workers Union, FAHU, addresses this. Qama Zotani joins us for this conversation. Qama, good morning. Thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Explain to us what happened and why this new rotational shift system is a violation of the terms and conditions of employment.
Well, firstly, good morning to you, Oliver, and good morning to your listeners. So what usually happens is that if an employer wants to sort of change the manner in which people work, they have to consult. And after consultation, remember, when we deal with consultations, we have to determine whether there is a fundamental change in the terms and conditions of employment. And then we deal with those at the appropriate level, you know, implementing the different changes as needs be. Now, this time around, we've tried as the union to sort of maintain this roundtable with the employer, and after several attempts, it became evident that we're not going to get the joy that we want, let alone any sort of progress made on the matter. And then, obviously, when we declare a dispute, it goes then to the appropriate forums where we sit and talk, and it was evident that the matter would not be resolved, which ultimately resulted in the protest action.
Did you guys go through arbitration?
No. So the classification of the dispute is a dispute of interest more than a dispute of right that goes to arbitration. So
I asked that, and
remedy.
I'm glad you make that distinction, and I'll tell you why my question then relates, because your argument is that it has an impact on the terms and conditions of employment. Does this new shift, rotational shift, have an impact on the income of any of the workers?
It certainly does, Oliver. Just to paint a picture, what had happened just prior to this shift change is that there had been an ongoing merger between HBSA and Distel. I think you would remember Distel. So, and one of the things that had been agreed in this merger agreement is that workers would not be worse off in any way, especially in terms of the terms and conditions of employment. However, given that the harmonization process was a lengthy one, and everything had been done sort of in collaboration with the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition through the Competition Commission, and the merger agreement was finalized and everything, you would find that the business now has some sort of pressure to reach certain targets, right? And with those obligations, what happens is that they have to find creative ways to sort of manage the workforce and everything, because part of the merger agreement is to ensure security of tenure for those employees, both permanent and non-permanent staff. Now,
so perhaps,
the problem with
just,
this shift,
let's put a pin in there, and I'm glad you're going there. What is the implication of the shift on workers?
So the implication of this shift is that where you have a contractually agreed upon work week, the employer unilaterally extends it, right? Now, the financial implications are in this way. If I usually work and finish my week on a Friday, now that has been extended to a Saturday, and instead of paying me double for Sunday, they would then pay 1.5. The implications of that in terms of the public policy is that a Sunday, when it's not a normal working day, I must be paid double. But if I'm paid 1.5, there's an acknowledgement that Sunday is a normal working day. Now, to alter conditions of employment in that way, there needs to be consultation, and most importantly, there needs to be an agreement. And that is what is not there at the present moment.
Yeah, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your time and your explanation. Ama, who is with the Food and Allied Workers Union. We are reaching out to Heineken to get their side of the story around the rotational shift. And I'm taking your reactions to that. 086 000 2032.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Let's go to the lines. Let's speak to Voice in Bloemfontein. Voice, good morning. Go for it.
Good morning, Oliver. Oliver, I'm from Bloemfontein. I'm an owner of a logistics company. I've been in the business now for about 12 years. But just to comment on the what is happening in the Eastern Cape and how bad it is, do you know sometimes if we are loaded in Durban, having to go to Eastern Cape, people rather choose to leave Durban, come to Bloemfontein, and go all the way around to avoid the N2 road. Because most people in the trucking business will tell you that how bad it has been there. You know, you can't move through the Eastern Cape. It's not a new thing. And I hear people are saying this thing, it's all over the country now. If we become specific to trucking, that is not true, because every tracker knows that the Eastern Cape is a nightmare. You can't. So if I just compare to you, if you check on Google Maps, you check the distance from Durban to East London, it's about 600 kilometers. And people rather choose to come from Durban to Bloemfontein and add another 700 kilos to avoid driving through Umtata and that N2 road. So you can just imagine, if, let's say, in the Eastern Cape we are moving products and we are pouring diesel and buying food along that corridor, how much money, number one, us as transporters, we are losing on diesel.
Absolutely.
And the business development in that community, because it's just lawless, it's so bad to a point that, and it's not a new thing, Oliver.
Yeah, Voice, I am going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for your call and appreciate you sharing your experiences there. Thabo in the Eastern Cape, good morning, go for it.
Morning, Oliver. Oliver, if law enforcement, especially the intelligence operatives, are not used in this capping of this thing, it's not going to end. I would tell you that most of the people that are doing these things are either in prison, or they are driving these things from prison, or they are gangsters. And you would also note that all of these things, if you link them, taxi people are involved from the Western Cape and the Eastern Cape, and as long as the intelligence agencies are not infiltrating this thing, it's not going to end. Even if people are convicted, they would still drive it from prison.
Yeah. Thank you so much for that, Thabo. Appreciate your call as well. Let's speak to Temba out in Gqeberha. Temba, good morning. You want to comment on the story around the 95 Libyans?
Good morning, Oliver. Oliver, I guess you were here in South Africa already when the son of Margaret Thatcher, the then Prime Minister of England, was involved in transporting illegal arms through South Africa. That man jumped South Africa overnight. That was facilitated with the involvement of the state. And here we are today, the 95 Libyans and the illegal military camp, which is not the only one. And the state today is facilitating the escape, and it has done so. The escape of the 95 Libyans, scot-free. I mean the state. What do you expect from ordinary South Africans? Which country can found a military base within its territory with 95 illegal immigrants from a state that is dysfunctional like Libya?
I mean, let's be clear of the facts there a little bit, right, Temba? First, this is a security training and security provision facility. It is duly registered. The owners are South African. The owners are known. It is not an unknown thing. And similarly, it is not an unregistered organization. What is of unusual turn of events here is that they were using the facility to give high-level advanced, apparently military training, right? So it's not as though these Libyan nationals came, set up their own camp, and then started training.
No. It's not like they came, I'm going somewhere. They were organized. Remember, the institution, serious leading economic institution, saw beyond 29th May, they saw violence.
Yeah.
They predicted violence. And had the ANC went to the left, that violence, according to them, would have manifested. And capital readied itself to defend its land and its property.
Okay.
And the only way was to mobilize illegal foreigners and train them within South Africa so that they have an army to defend themselves or launch war internally in the country.
Yeah.
But the state is turning a blind eye to this.
Temba, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for that. Really appreciate it. Temba calling us there from Gqeberha. Let's take one more. AB in Durban, very quickly. Go for it. Good morning.
Good morning, Oliver. If you are a politician in the United States, you better not criticize Israel for the genocide it's carrying out if you know what's good for you. The pro-Israel lobby group AIPAC has an iron grip on the politics regarding Israel. For example, Cory Bush, an outspoken critic of Israel, recently lost the congressional elections because AIPAC spent $8.9 million in support of her opponent, and a whopping 17 million rand was spent to get Jamal Bowman out. So far, APEC has spent $90 million of its 100 million budget targeting Congress members who are critical of Israel. Now, having that pediatrician speaking about her terrible experience in Gaza was a slight shift and just a nod at the 10,000 people demonstrating outside the convention center. The reason that there is no ceasefire is because Genocide Joe dare not stand up to Netanyahu, who doesn't want a ceasefire. And in fact, Joe gave $20 billion worth of arms to help Israel in its slaughter of Palestinians. Netanyahu received 49 standing ovations from both sides of the House, Democrats and Republicans, when he addressed the U.S. Congress recently. My final point, the fact is that the U.S. government is the best democracy that money can buy. Let me end with what former
Look, we are going to have to leave it there, AB, but thank you so much for that. AB, we are thin on time, but thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. AB calling us there from Durban. The best democracy money can buy. That sounds like a good tagline in the sloganeering game. On the other side of this, I speak to Jonathan Kwak, who's the smoke-free products director at Philip Morris.
The Science of Life on SAfm.
Now, it's long been known that tobacco products, specifically cigarettes, have been incredibly harmful. Many people try to quit and try because it's an addictive product and fail to do so because it's an addictive product. The health implications are tremendous. The very first fight the Minister of Health in South Africa had taken on, and that was, I think, all the way back to Minister Mantu Chabalala Nsimang, was with the tobacco industry, and that fight was carried on by Minister Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma when she became the Minister of Health. Tobacco companies are now having to deal with the impact of this. Philip Morris, however, they says they want to leave the tobacco, or at least not the tobacco space altogether, but the production of cigarette manufacturing by the year 2030. And they have a division called Smoke-Free Products. Jonathan Kwak is the director of it. Jonathan, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. What are smoke-free products?
Good morning, Oliver. Thanks for having me today morning. Basically, in Philip Morris, as you mentioned, we have embarked a transformation journey starting from 2014. It's been about 10 years with the launch of IQOS. So IQOS is a product that is heating tobacco instead of burning it. Okay, so we have launched it in 2014 globally, and we have also launched it in South Africa in 2017, aiming to switch conventional cigarette smokers to this smoke-free product called IQOS. Since the launch, the company has grown its presence into many different markets.
Jonathan, just to pause you there, is that a vape? Are we talking about vapes?
No, this is actually a different to vape. Vape is basically using the liquid and a liquid to use using the vapor. But this is actually heated tobacco product. So you have a tobacco stick which contains the tobacco, and using the device, you are basically heating the tobacco to get the nicotine satisfaction. Okay, so in traditionally, you are basically burning. You are lighting it up, and then you are burning the tobacco. And as you probably know, many people know, a lot of harmful substances are coming out from the burning process. So by eliminating the burning process, you are basically getting the nicotine with the less harmful way of consuming tobacco.
Do we have conclusive data on whether or not this is healthier or safer than traditional cigarettes?
What I can tell you is because we are eliminating the burning process, and a lot of harmful substances are coming out of the burning process, obviously there's a significant reduction in terms of harmful chemicals coming out from the experience. So we do have the data that's backing it up. We also have some independent data that is validating the fact that as we are moving away from the combustion and burning, it significantly reduces the harmful toxicants that are coming out from the burning process.
Right. And what is because one has to be, if it is healthier, then obviously one has to encourage that be a product of preference. But what is the price difference between, say, a pack of cigarettes and one of these IQOS?
It is very competitive. I guess the cigarette prices are ranging from 40 Rand all the way to 60 Rand, depending on which brand and which product that you are using. The pack of tobacco stick, we call it as a tobacco stick, is at 42 Rand today. So it is very accessible from the price point of view.
Okay. And just lastly, is the ultimate plan to move to a place where you produce no nicotine and no tobacco products?
Let me correct a bit. I think we are still having the nicotine in the products that we are developing and innovating. Basically, if you want to move away from the nicotine, I think there's other alternatives that are available in the market. So what we are trying to do is that it is important to underline that the best action for the consumer and who are smoking is to quit tobacco and nicotine altogether. By far, the worst way of consuming nicotine is basically smoking conventional cigarettes or burning tobacco. Okay. So what I believe is consumers in South Africa, they deserve a pragmatic approach and practical solution to move away from the combustion and burning cigarettes to a better alternative, such as the heat-not-burn products, heated tobacco products that I explained, and also the products like a nicotine pouch we are soon to be introducing into South Africa.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Really appreciate it. Jonathan Kwak, who is with Philip Morris International. Taking your reactions, give us a call, 086 000 2032.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAfm, let's talk.
Let's go to the lines. Lisiba in Kobokwane. Good morning. Go for it.
Good morning, Oliver, and good morning to our listeners, and thanks for taking my call. My issue is about the visit of the ANC National Working Committee in KwaZulu-Natal over the weekend. You see, Oliver.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm speaking from Skukune, where the ANC has received quite a decisive support, even the province in general, Limpopo. So, but for the ANC, we appreciate the move. It's trying to recapture the province again. But then it's about time that the ANC start to reward the people that have been behaving, the people that have been loyal, like ourselves have been loyal to the ANC since the liberation struggle, even this democracy have been together with the ANC. But we are the poor of the poor region in the province, the poor of the poorest in the country. Cocoon has been declared a nodal point. No service deliverers came forward. We are struggling. So ANC must start to reward those people that have been loyal to the ANC. KwaZulu-Natal rejected us. They did not vote for us, Dixon. Then they care less about us. Even ourselves will start to care less about them. For the next 5 years, let's reward the people that have been honest to us, support us, and provide service delivery as part of those areas.
Yeah, Lisiba, thank you so much for your call. Appreciate it. Jonathan in Kobeka. Jonathan, good morning. Go for it.
Hi, good morning. I wanted to talk about extortion in the construction industry. There was an article in the newspaper where Mr. Zikalala mentioned that to assist the construction sector, they are establishing a call center for speedy reporting of construction disruptions. And I can't find that call center number anywhere. You know, this has happened to me recently.
Yeah.
Where I've been extorted. And I was forced to pay a certain amount to a business forum so that I can continue with my construction. And at the time, it's very scary to report this matter because you need your construction work done as soon as possible. And going to the police, how is that going to immediately solve the problem? Tomorrow within an hour of you reporting them, they can come and burn your place down.
Yeah.
In fact, I was threatened right there and then that if I don't pay them, they're going to buy petrol from the petrol station.
How much did they, I'm just curious, how much did they try to extort from you?
It was about 70,000 rands.
My goodness. And how often would they demand this?
It was once off, but what happened was, the councillor was involved as well because he basically told me that he has to tender it out to these guys. And I couldn't understand that because this is a private construction. This is not a government construction. I can choose who I want to do my construction.
Yeah. Jonathan, thank you so much for sharing this with us. Really appreciate it. Jonathan calling us there from Kabeja. It is 8:30. Let's take your latest headlines.
News making headlines for this hour. The Eastern Cape Chamber of Business has called on the National Police Minister to replace police officers in Mthatha. The call comes as several businesses in the area have closed their doors in light of the escalating extortion. In other news, police have launched a manhunt for suspects in a shootout in which 4 people, including 2 taxi owners, were wounded in Midrand, Johannesburg yesterday. One suspect has been arrested and is set to appear in court soon. And lastly, police are investigating an incident in which one person died in a stampede at the Home Affairs offices in Marabastad in Pretoria. Over 20 people have been hospitalized after being injured in the incident. I'll be back at 9 for SAfm News. I'm Eva Chipa.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Still slow coming out of Benoni into Boxburg on your way to Joburg. Crash near Rondebowl Road. Queues back through Atlas, back towards Tom Jones. The R59 stays fairly slow, although it is improving as the volumes drop off, but still quite heavy into the Reading interchange. R59 up to the N12, that is. Problems on the N1 between Ravonia and William Mandela. There's delays both ways, north and south on that section. Crash on the N14, driving to Pretoria before the Brockfontein interchange. Delays back to the R55. And a crash on the old Joburg Road in that Centurion area at the N1. That is also causing delays as well. Good news from Durban. The N3 inbound, the crash near Pavilion Mall is out of the way. Cape Town to the south. The N7 south is very heavy. There's a breakdown and a crash before you get to Bosmansdam Road. So coming through from Plattekloof Road, that's heavy. And we've still got a collision on the R300 north between Stellenbosch Arterial and Van Riebeeck Road. Traffic is starting to move a little bit better than it was earlier though. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
This is SAfm Sport with Sai Khan.
A very good morning to you. Let's start with the Proteas. They're gearing up for their 3-match T20 series against the West Indies. But skipper Aidan Markram says winning isn't the sole focus this time. With 6 players from the World Cup squad and a mix of fresh talent like Kwena Mapaka and Jason Smith, the series is about growth and development. Markram emphasized the importance of giving fringe players international experience to build depth ahead of their future ICC events. South Africa has struggled against the West Indies in recent encounters, but the bigger picture is preparing the squad for long-term success and not just immediate results. In the meantime, the 2024 ICC Women's T20 World Cup has been relocated from Bangladesh to the United Arab Emirates due to political unrest in the original host country. The tournament scheduled for October will now take place in Dubai and Sharjah, with 10 teams competing over 23 matches. Group A includes the defending champions Australia, India and New Zealand, while Group B features South Africa, England and the former host Bangladesh. The ICC expressed disappointment at the move but thanked the Emirates Cricket Board for stepping in. Now, SABC Sport has learned that Wydad Athletic Club are on the verge of sealing a loan move for striker Cassius Mailula to reunite with coach Rurani Mokoena. Despite the Morocco Giants yet to have their FIFA transfer ban lifted, it's understood talks have advanced between Wydad and Toronto FC in the Major League Soccer regarding Mailula switching to the Botola Pro League for the 24-25 season. The 23-year-old Mailula transferred to the United States of America a little over 12 months ago following a reported 30 million rand offer to his then club, Mamelodi Sundowns. Athletics Botswana's Letsile Tebogo will compete in the 200 meters at the Lausanne Diamond League, but all eyes from South Africa will be on Akani Simbine and Wade van Niekerk. Simbine is fresh off a strong season, will challenge the world's best in the 100 meters, continuing his quest for sprint dominance, while the 400-meter world record holder Wade van Niekerk is set to compete in his signature event as he builds back to form. With South African stars vying for the spotlight, the Diamond League event is one to watch, and you can catch the updates here on SAfm. Finally, golf. Ryan van Velsen will make his debut in the DP World Tour's Netbank Golf Challenge at Sun City from the 5th of December as the face of a new generation of young South African professionals seeking to make their mark in Africa's majors. Van Velsen secured this place in a stellar international field for this year's Netbank Cup Golf Challenge in honor of Gary Player. And this was thanks to a groundbreaking performance on the Sunshine Tour last season, which saw him crowned the winner of the overall Order of Merit. The 22-year-old Van Velsen will join compatriots Christian Bezuidenhout and Eric van Rooyen, as well as defending champion Max Homer from America, amongst the early stars announced for this year's tournament. And that's how we wrap it up on the golf course. More sport. I want to go with you, please.
Please come. I was there last year. I was there when Max Homer won. I called it, and I'm excited for Ryan. Ryan's playing fantastic golf. I watched him last year at the Stella Artois Challenge in Danefern, and man, oh man, he's in good form. He also played the Daniel Hill, right?
Yo, we got to follow this guy on that course, that's for sure. Yeah, he's doing amazing things.
Yeah, looking forward to it. I enjoyed myself last year at the Nedbank Golf Challenge at Sun City. Man, oh man, that was beautiful. Here's a little secret. I got to meet Gary Player, and he gave me some golfing lessons in the clubhouse. That was fantastic.
What? Teeing off with the Gary Player. Yeah, all right. Gary Player. I'm hanging on to your coattails.
I can't. Thank you so much for that. Really do appreciate it.
The Business Update on SAfm.
In a short while, we're going to be in conversation with Putego Mujapila, who's an aviation analyst, giving us an analysis on the impact that the Qatar Airways 25% stake acquisition of Airlink will have on the sector. But Ndaleng is here to give us the details on that acquisition. Ndaleng?
Hi again, Oliver. So Qatar Airways finally ending months of speculation. Around May, it had said it'll be investing in an airline in Southern Africa, but was mum on which airline it will be investing in. We had a number of analysts speculate, bringing up SAA in the mix. Some analysts were even saying Qatar Airways could be looking outside of South Africa, considering the issues the local airline industry has faced over the past few years. But they finally put us out of our misery, saying they'll be picking up a 25% stake in Airlink. Qatar Airways has bought the largest share of Airlink that it is allowed to, because South African laws, of course, say that foreign companies can't own more than 25% of a local airline. The move furthers its goal of expanding operations in Africa, with Airlink's network covering over 45 destinations across 15 African countries. This move aims to strengthen the existing codeshare agreement between the airlines. Currently, Qatar Airways operates flights to 29 destinations in Africa, and this partnership is set to enhance its presence on the continent. The investment also just boding well for South Africa's investment case, considering the amount of international companies that have been ditching operations in the country. The investment in South Africa is one of two on the continent. Qatar is also picking up a 49% stake in Rwanda, with further plans of building an airport in Kigali. So Qatar Airways showing a lot of interest in Africa's airline industry, and according to the World Bank, that industry is projected to grow by about 5.8% per annum.
Yeah, and HSBC, they're thinking about leaving South Africa. Is this another vote of no confidence in the local market?
So from good news to not so good news. And now this is according to Bloomberg reports. The British bank HSBC is mulling an exit in the country. It said that the group is looking at disposing of its local operations to focus on Asia, which aligns with its strategy. So the lender started operating in SA in 1995. The local unit is run as an extension of its UK division, providing services in commercial and investment banking only, and does not offer personal or retail banking services to individuals. It mainly serves large companies operating on the continent. Now, this expected move is not necessarily a sign of South Africa's dwindling appeal as an investment destination, but rather a reflection of HSBC's own strategic priorities. In recent years, HSBC has been streamlining its operations in Western countries as well. It's closed down some units in the US, in France, and in Canada in order to concentrate on growth markets in Asia and regions where it has a significant presence. According to those reports, there are already bidders lining up to scoop that unit. African, Chinese, and UAE-based bidders have shown interest in the lender's South African unit.
Yep, the JSE is opening in the next 20 minutes. What are we looking forward to? What are those indicators like?
So earnings season is in full swing here at home. Local traders We'll be waking up to results from private education player Curo and gold tailings miner DRD Gold. There'll also be numbers out from Spur later in the day, and the consumer inflation print for August also being released today. It'll be interesting to see how those numbers influence activity. On the currency front, the rand remaining steady, trading at 17.83 to the dollar. We've been seeing traders across the globe take a wait and see approach when it comes to equity markets ahead of those Fed minutes and Jerome Powell's speech at Jackson Hole on Friday. So ahead of these moves, US futures are in positive territory with all indices in the green. Things are different in Asia. Those markets on track to close or to end the day in the red as they are under pressure, particularly in China, as concerns over the country's economic recovery continue to bite.
Yeah, let's hope that Olympic silver medal translates into good financials for Curo when they release their results today. And darling, thank you so much for that. Really appreciate it. We'll check back with you tomorrow. Give us a call, 086 000 2032, 19 minutes before 9.
SAfm is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAfm and SMS the keyword SAfm88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day, where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday.
Keeping you informed and ready for the day ahead on hashtag SAfm Breakfast.
I'm going to be opening the lines in a short while, taking your reaction to some of the conversations we've had here on 086 000 2032. But let's go further on that story brought to us by Ndauleng in the business update. That is the Qatar Airways acquisition of 25% of the ownership of Southern African Airlink. Now, Airlink, they operate in 45 countries across the continent. 45 destinations across 15 countries on the continent. That means that they have great expansion capabilities, and Qatar may have bought them precisely for that. But what impact will this have on the domestic and regional aviation sector? Joining us to make sense of this is Potego Mujapilo, who's an aviation analyst. Potego, usually when we see airlines merge, do they perform better?
Good morning. Yes, sometimes it's for a good cause for the airlines to be able to get a cash injection or to be acquired in terms of how to optimize their operations, as well as making sure that they are able to be competitive on the market, because at some stages, like in South African market, you may not have luxury of having funds that would be able to get you to the level in which you would like to participate in the industry. So at some stages it is good, especially when the resources are very much limited.
Yeah, Airlink has positioned itself as a low-cost airline, at least domestically in South Africa. Qatar is not. Qatari flights are expensive. What impact could we see this merger have, or this acquisition and equity partnership have on local pricing for consumers?
No, let me just correct you there. Airlink is not a low cost. It's not LCC. It doesn't fall under the LCC market, low cost carrier. It is a premium service. So it is in line with what Qatar brand stands for. So it is on the domestic market, it competes with the all other LCCs that we have, but it is not an LCC as it were.
So it competes with them, but doesn't fall into that category necessarily.
It doesn't fall into that category. It falls under the SAA as well as Airlink. These are the premium services. They are not the LCC. So it squarely fits well in the Qatar brand, right, because it is not an LCC. So for them to acquire, for Qatar to acquire SAA, it is a strategy that started in Rwanda. You would remember that when Qatar Airways went into Rwanda to acquire Rwandan Air, stake onto Rwandan Air and transform the aviation sector in Rwanda, it was on the basis that they wanted to penetrate the African market, particularly from the east and moving towards the southern tip of Africa. Now, when you look at Qatar and you look at Emirates, these are two Middle East giants that are squarely on each other. And for Qatar to get into Africa, they needed to partner with someone within the Southern Africa.
Yeah.
In this case, it's going to be Airlink, which is very good because now you have an opportunity of having resources at your disposal to be able to be competitive, both domestic and regional. So the prices would then come down. You will be able to see people having connectivity from whatever destination in Southern Hemisphere, going all the way to where the Qatar destinations are, because it's going to be they're going to be part of the Qatar plans going forward. As much as they're doing with the Rwandan Air, it's going to be exactly the same thing that is going to happen with Airlink in this case.
What is the upside of the Southern African airline market? We don't have the highest concentration of flyers. We don't have many frequent flyers. Anyone who invests here is sort of going to have to play the long game for a very long time before they see return on equity. What is the upside?
The truth of the matter is that there is an appetite of flyers in Southern Africa. That is the truth. There's no doubt about it. I mean, if I were to just make an example for you, the highest paying route in Southern Africa is Johannesburg and Harare. I mean, you're talking about multi-billions of US dollars in between those two countries. It's a lucrative route, followed domestic by Cape Town, Johannesburg. Now, Africa, it's always been very difficult to be penetrated. And the reason why it has been very difficult for flyers to be able to frequent in areas that they want to get into, it is the price. Because flying into Africa, there's always been issues of the price. The airlines are not able to make a return on investment when they are going into those difficult African countries and so on. Not only because they are not able to attract the right clientele that they want to subscribe to their brand, but because of the operational conditions. But if you do have partners that will be able to make you at least be able to be competitive on the market, then it's easier for them to be able to continue to get the service going, especially when we want to increase the number of flyers and also wanting to increase the frequencies in certain areas that are not being covered with the frequent airlines going into those destinations.
Yeah, thank you so much for your insights, but I really do appreciate it. Look, I'm curious to see if this will help consumers as far as pricing and options or a network of destinations are concerned, because that would be something that could benefit us greatly, especially those who are trying to get into the more expensive parts of the continent as you travel across the African continent. I'm taking your reactions to that 086 000 2032. You can send us a short WhatsApp voice note or tweet me at Oliver_speaking on Twitter, Oliver Dixon on Facebook. Putero Mojapelo is an aviation analyst. Let's get you to work safely with your 10 to 9 traffic update.
SAfm, guiding you through the rush hour traffic
I was looking a lot better. 3 Centurion. Now the crash on the N14 north at Brockfontein, that is being cleared. Also the collision on the Old Joburg Road at the N1, that is out of the way as well. Bit of traffic still with us on the N1 south from Old Joburg Road, moving through to New Road. Crash coming out of Benoni into Boksburg. The N12 at Rondebolt is that scene. Traffic parking back and looking quite heavy through to the Atlas Road exit. Durban side this morning. The crash going into town at Spaghetti Junction's being cleared away, so that's good news. It's been replaced though by another crash on your way to Durban just past Paradise Valley, so you've got the phenomenon of both the N3 and the M13, both of those routes queuing up into the sort of merge point towards Pavilion Mall. Mgeni Road over Cornwall Bridge heading into Durban, that's quite busy this morning. And Cape Town, a lot of pressure on the routes, largely because of wet weather conditions across Cape Town. The N1 still queuing from Plattekloof all the way to the city centre. The N2's at around about Langa, straight to the Hospital Bend, and the M5 still very heavy to get into that N2, with the queue pushing back towards the Racecourse Road in the Kenilworth area. Rob Byrne, SAfm Traffic.
Catch me, Bonang Mateba, on a fresh reality series that showcases the business behind being a business. Get to experience an intimate look at my life with family, personal growth, and my mission to uplift young women. Jet with me as we prepare to crown a lucky chaser. Be grounded, be entertained, and be dazzled. Monday, 6 p.m. on S3, it's a date with you and B. Catch Bedazzled by Bonang on S3 every Monday at 6 p.m.
18 teams are back on the hunting ground. No one wants a loss or a draw. They are all searching for maximum points in every encounter. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Do not miss out on the 2024-2025 Bundesliga season. Catch the action live on Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
8 minutes to the top of the hour. I'm taking your calls and reactions. Give us a call, 086 000 2032. Let's go to Thomas in Newcastle. Thomas, good morning.
Well, you can go. Hey, how are you, Bob?
I'm fantastic, Thomas. Go for it.
Yeah, Oliver, my problem is we're jumping now as the society on the issue of extortionism. The biggest extorter has been the government all along. And now it is entrenched on us as human beings because the politiciians trained their subordinates how to extort as they were taking money. And it's going to be a very difficult thing to do. I hope the SIU is going to start arresting the originators. Don't arrest the foot soldiers.
Okay.
Arrest the originators of the extortion business, and those are the government. They would give people jobs and not pay them on time, and they are not held accountable, and yet they are processes.
Yeah.
That's extortion in and of itself. They will be giving contracts to people in a form of a PPE thing and all that, but they will seek for you to give them a share on that. But in George, that is extortion.
Yeah.
So they can't be jumping up now and saying, "Ooh, extortion! This is new. We must study." They are the perfecters of the stupid thing.
Okay, thank you so much for your call, Thomas. Appreciate it. Let's go to Magdalene in Bloemfontein. Magdalene, good morning. Go for it.
Morning. Let's come to the point of construction mafia. Actually, who are the construction mafias? Those who are earmarked for the contracts of local development, even if they don't qualify, who are earmarked by the government. The government is the one which starts this thing of construction mafia. For the fact that I'm concerned about local economic empowerment, it is said that 30% need to be given to the local construction for empowerment.
Yeah.
So if it is not done correctly, then other people will be perceived as construction mafia, whereas are forums who are trying to bring what's supposed to be done because politicians ignore to implement accordingly. So construction mafias are those who are earmarked nationally and given a project to come down here and do it, whereas the very same company doesn't comply or meet the requirements accordingly, and the local person or local contractor ignored because it's not affiliated to anyone. So those are the construction mafias.
Magdalene, thank you so much for your call. Appreciate it. Let's have a listen at some of your WhatsApp voice note reactions that has come through.
Oliver, they must, the Chidimas, the mothers, they must be deported, strip or whatever documents because they're fraudulent, and this thing must extend to all foreigners who obtained their documents fraudulently, from Pakistanis to Chinese to Mozambicans to Zimbabweans to Nigerians. Everything, we need to clean the country. Our country, our citizens are victims of this fraud from Home Affairs. Clean, bahambe.
Good morning, Oliver. David from Alberton. Two-pot system. I think it's short-sighted. If you want to release money and you want to virtually take half of it and retain it to force people to save for retirement instead of allowing a big enough cash injection into the economy for people to create businesses that will make sure people don't need to retire because they have business that are creating jobs. This obsession with retirement, it's crazy. Release enough money to the economy to enable business creation, small businesses, because we know funding is a problem, and this is one model that could inject that. So it's useless. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Oliver. It's Sibata here from Sebugeng. You know, Oliver, Mthatha and Eastern Cape in general, it's a problem. For the past 17 years I've been a trucker, I have found that problem. It has already been there. These security companies, they are in business with these criminals. The company is forced to pay for them to escort you. If the company doesn't pay, the truck gets vandalized. The cops know about this. The mayors know about this. The councillors know about this. The company that I've worked for reported this several times. Nothing was done. It came to a point whereby the company decided we no longer use the N2 route from Durban to Cape Town or from Cape Town to Durban. We drive around using Bloemfontein and Harrismith. That's how it is. So the criminals are in business with the security and the cops. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Really do appreciate it. Let's have a listen at this WhatsApp voice note.
Morning, Oliver and the SAfm listeners, man.
Hey, Oliver. I was one of those people who were going for the two-pot system. But from a discussion with my HR is that should I leave the company, I can only cash out what will be in my savings, and the rest of the money will have to be transferred to another fund or be kept until retirement age. But if I do not opt for the two-pot system, my fund retains its structure. It means should I resign whenever, I'll be able to cash out all my money because I would have not opted for the two-pot system, so it retains its rights. And therefore, I am not taking my money because I want to leave and I want my money when I leave. Thanks.
Morning, Oliver. I'm totally confused. You're talking about the two-pot system and you're talking about the impact it's going to have, people buying houses and retirement homes. I'm totally lost. How are they going to do that? They're only going to get probably a maximum of 17,000 from that. So I'm totally confused with your analysis. How are you expecting this boom to come from this two-pot system? I mean, it doesn't matter how much money you've got. You're only going to get 30,000 taxed, and after that you're probably going to be left with at tops 17,000. So how is anyone going to buy retirement homes and pay out mortgages? I'm lost, guys. This analysis that you just heard is confusing.
That's a very micro look at it, right? We had a macro conversation. The conversation was the question to the effect of, in the fourth quarter of this year, so a number of things are happening in the economy. One, a potential decrease in the interest rates to be announced by the Reserve Bank. At least that's what the market is hoping for. And while that's happening in the fourth quarter of South Africa, we will see a cash injection into the economy in circulation of between 30 billion rand to 70 billion rand on people cashing out. Now, if you have that much money coming into the economy, the stimulus impact of it is massive. And it has the inverse of an inflation impact, right? That means it drives prices of houses down, not necessarily that people are going to use their withdrawals for the purposes of home buying. That's not the analysis that was made. The question was, what impact will a reduced interest rate and a cash injection of 30 billion rand into the South African economy in the hands of people have on the housing market? That was the question. It's a macro conversation, not a micro conversation. Maybe you had missed that piece of context. And that brings me to the end of the show here today. Of course, we will be back with you on the other side of tomorrow. But I do want to leave you with this last message. Essential cover from Outsurance pays out claims in cash, allowing you to choose your own panel beater. SMS card to 43187 now.
In news making headlines for this hour, more police officers deployed to the Eastern Cape and one person killed in a stampede at a Home Affairs office. Good morning, I'm Eva Cheapman. The Eastern Cape Premier, Oscar Mabuyane, has welcomed the National Police Commissioner, Fani Masemola's deployment of extra police officers to the province to clamp down on escalating extortion cases. The call comes as several businesses in the area close their doors in light of escalating extortion. It is alleged that criminal syndicates in the area are demanding protection fees from businesses, schools and healthcare facilities. Kuselwa Rangi is the provincial government spokesperson.
This strategic reinforcement is aimed at addressing the escalating issue of gang violence and extortion in key areas of the province, including Mthatha and Gqeberha. The Premier commends this decisive action, which follows the recent visit and community stakeholder engagement in the province led by the Minister of Police, Senzo Mchunu. These engagements highlighted the urgency of addressing the criminal activities that have been terrorizing communities, stifling economic growth and transformation, as well as employment creation.
Meanwhile, earlier, the president of the Eastern Cape Chamber of Business, Vuyisile Ntlabati, called on the National Police Minister to replace officers in Mthatha, alleging that police are working with the extortion syndicates.
Some of the police people have been conniving with these guys, so they need new faces and some must be transferred elsewhere if there are not disciplinary procedures that are going to take place, so that people need to have confidence. They have not been reporting some cases because we knew that once we report a case, certain police people will report it to those guys and then we get a phone call. So business is closed and people live in fear.
To Gauteng now, where police have launched a manhunt for suspects in a shootout in which 4 people, including 2 taxi owners, were wounded in Midrand, Johannesburg yesterday. One suspect has been arrested and he will appear in court soon. 2 bystanders were also injured after being caught in the crossfire. Police spokesperson Mavela Masondo says an attempted murder case has been opened.
It is reported that taxi owners were from a meeting and being escorted by the security guards when their 2 vehicles were shot at by the suspects. A shootout ensued between the suspect and the security officers that were escorting the taxi owners.
Police are investigating an incident in which one person died in a stampede at the Home Affairs offices in Marabastad in Pretoria. Over 20 people have been hospitalized after being injured in the incident. The offices cater for refugees and asylum seekers. In other news, the Save South Africa civic movement says the recruitment age limit for government entry-level jobs and police recruits should be scrapped to help tackle unemployment. The movement's campaign and communications director, Tebogo Mashelapane, says the recruitment age limit of 35 disadvantages people who are still able to work and are capable of learning new skills. He adds the scrapping of the age limit will also help to reduce crime.
When they go to business, they cannot get funding, especially when they are over 35. There's no funding for them. So what will they do? They can't be employed. They cannot get funding. What are other alternatives? So we are saying there is a relationship there. If somebody is not employable, the person cannot get funding to start business, and then the person has to support their own children or family members and stuff. It is highly likely that they will commit crime.
And lastly, news making headlines on the African continent. Police in Kenya have launched a manhunt for the main suspect in the killing of women whose dismembered remains were found at a Nairobi rubbish dump. Collins Joy Maisa Kalusha escaped from a police station in the capital along with a group of Eritrean nationals. 8 police officers have been arrested on suspicion of helping them to escape. Gilbert Masengeni is the Inspector General of the police in the country.
We have launched manhunt to rearrest the escapees. We further appeal to the members of public with any information that may lead to the rearrest of the suspect, especially the murder suspect, Collins Chumaisi Kalusha.
Recapping the top story at 9, the Eastern Cape Premier Oscar Mabuyane has welcomed the National Police Commissioner Fani Masemola's deployment of extra police officers to the province to clamp down on escalating extortion. The call comes as several businesses in the area close their doors in light of escalating extortion. I'll be back at the bottom of the hour. For SAfm News, I'm Eva Chipa.
And that's the news for this hour. Theft, accident and 1 million rand liability cover, all covered by Outsurance Essential. Get a code today, SMS CAR to 43187.
SAfm 104 to 107 nationwide.
Every day our children are exposed to relentless marketing of unhealthy foods where they live, learn and play. This aggressive marketing of unhealthy foods to children can shape their eating habits and food preferences for the rest of their lives. I'm your host, Crystal Audison. Is big food stalking our children? Watch Chew on This on healer.org on Thursday, 15th August at 3 p.m.
Big ups to all the women of Africa Dzonga. Incredible characters in various fields. When you set your mind onto something, your winning mentality is difficult to defeat. On and off the field. Your excellence in the world of sport